Chapter 2771. Although the black vortex could devour all kinds of divine power, it could even use divine power of various attributes as nourishment to strengthen itself. However, the power of the heaven-mending orb was very special. The black vortex could not devour it. In just an hour, the vortex was filled with sacred white light. As a result, the power of the black vortex was suppressed. Qi Tianqing activated the power of the heaven-mending orb again. He wrapped the black vortex with white light and began to gradually refine it. 15 minutes later, the heaven-mending orb successfully refined a wisp of black light and absorbed it into the heaven-mending orb. Qi Tianqing's eyelids moved, and he thought to himself, "It's done." That's right, he had taken the second step to success. Next, he focused on controlling the heaven-mending orb and continued to refine the black light. As more and more black light was refined by the heaven-mending orb, a black line appeared on the sacred white heaven-mending orb. Yin Yao, Ji Ku, and the others knew that this was a real success. Everyone was relieved. They secretly breathed a sigh of relief and smiled happily. What they had to do was wait patiently. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days passed. 6 days later, half of the black vortex with a radius of 10 feet had been refined by the heaven-mending orb. A quarter of the pure white divine orb had also turned pure black. 12 days later, the black vortex disappeared. All of the engulfing divine power had been refined by the heaven-mending orb. The pure white heaven-mending orb had become half black and half white. In this way, not only did it not destroy the holiness of the heaven-mending orb, it made it even more mysterious. Swoosh! Qi Tianqing ended the spell and put the heaven-mending orb back into his body. Everyone immediately gathered around and began to discuss joyfully. Great! We finally got the opportunity of the heavenly Tao. Tianqing, how do you feel now? Has your strength increased? Master, the engulfing divine power has been refined by your divine orb. How will you use it in the future? Old Ji, are you going to use the engulfing divine power to quickly increase your strength? Will there be any danger? Qi Tianqing waved his hand to silence the crowd. He held Ji Wushuang's little hand and said apologetically, "Wushuang, you were the one who discovered this devouring godly power. Father should have given it to you. However, only the heaven-mending orb could refine it. In the future, only I can use it. You won't blame me, right?" Ji Wushuang wrapped her arms around his neck and shook her head with a smile. Shuang is more than happy that Father can refine the heavenly Tao's opportunity. How could I blame you? Moreover, the devouring divine power is too special. Only you can refine and control it. If you give it to me, I won't be able to refine it. Instead, I'll be harmed by it. Qi Tianqing's heart was filled with gratification. He pinched her cute little nose and said, "Shuang is still the most sensible. You are indeed Father's intimate little jacket." With that said, he said to everyone, "Divine King Jiu Luo was harmed because of himself. I will not repeat the same mistake." The devouring godly power had a heaven-defying effect, but it was a double-edged sword that had to be used carefully. I will use it with the help of the heaven-mending orb. It will speed up my growth and not burden me. Everyone finally understood that he had only temporarily stopped using the devouring godly power. If he wanted to use it freely or even control it himself, he would need some time. This matter was over. Qi Tianqing brought everyone and flew upwards to leave the lightning pool. Alright, everyone has finished transforming. Now, it's time to see the outside world. Everyone followed Qi Tianqing. They passed through the endless lightning liquid and flew towards the top of the lightning pool. The lightning pool was very deep. Everyone flew for half an hour and passed through the lightning liquid that was thousands of miles deep before they reached the top of the lightning pool. Swoosh! As everyone left the water surface, countless splashes appeared on the calm lightning pool. The purple lightning liquid exploded into thousands of lightning arcs in the sky, giving off crackling sounds. After a while, everyone flew to 1,000 miles above the lightning pool. Above them was the azure sky. Below them was the surface of the lightning pool, which was thousands of miles in radius. There were majestic mountains in all directions. And on the eastern side of the lightning pool, on the nearest mountain, there were rows upon rows of palaces and houses. Seeing this scene, everyone started to discuss with each other. Strange, when we were in the lightning pool, it felt like it was boundless and terrifying. Why is it only 1,000 miles in radius after leaving the lightning pool? Maybe the bottom of the lightning pool is very wide and the exit is very small, like a gourd. I don't think so. The lightning pool is formed by the will of the heavenly Tao. How magical is that? It must be that the lightning pool is only 1,000 miles on the outside, but the space inside is very vast. Just like old G's heaven-mending pearl. It looks only the size of a thumb, but it can actually store the 5 elemental worlds. At this moment, Ji Ku suddenly reminded everyone, be careful and hide yourselves. Do not expose yourself. Ji Wu Shuang, Qian Yu, and Black Dragon were all stunned. They did not understand what he meant. Ji Tianqing explained, we are quite lucky. The location of this lightning pool is not too remote. A few hundred miles to the east of the lightning pool, there are immortals living on the mountain peak. If those immortals find out that so many of us have ascended together, they will be extremely shocked. The news will spread quickly and cause unnecessary trouble. White Dragon also nodded and said, from what I know, 7 or 8 people have ascended together. This has never happened before. We really need to hide from the limelight to avoid attracting attention and bringing trouble. Ji Ku added, the immortal realm is too big. There are tens of thousands of races and powerful warriors. This place is not as peaceful as the mortal realm. There are many different powers and only the strong are respected. To put it simply, there were no rules and security in the immortal realm. Battles could happen at any time. Everyone had just ascended to the immortal realm and did not even know where they were. They should not be too conspicuous. Moreover, Ji Tianqing's identity was special. He came here with a deep hatred and wanted to take revenge on the deity king. At this stage, they needed to be stable and develop. After everyone understood this, Ji Tianqing kept them into the 9 heavens 10 absolutes pagoda. Ever since Ji Ku went through nirvana, he could easily control the god pagoda. After coming to the immortal realm, the 5 elemental worlds were not restricted by the heavenly Tao. He took out the god pagoda and carried it with him. At this moment, everyone entered the distorted space of the god pagoda and started to cultivate. Ji Tianqing moved alone and carried the god pagoda with him. Of course, he kept the god pagoda in his body and would not expose it easily. Swoosh! Ji Tianqing flew across the sky at lightning speed and headed east. On a mountain peak 500 miles away, there were dozens of palaces and houses. Clearly, many immortals lived there. He wanted to find out which continent and which region this was. A few seconds later, Ji Tianqing flew to the edge of the lightning pool. A hazy purple light that covered the sky sealed the entire lightning pool. This was the power of the heavenly Tao. One could only leave but not enter. It could protect the lightning pool from being disturbed. Even a deity king could not destroy the purple light, let alone enter the lightning pool. Ji Tianqing passed through the purple light easily and left the lightning pool. However, at this moment, a few balls of 5-colored divine light suddenly lit up on the grassland in front of him. Swoosh! 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 In the blink of an eye, 5 immortals who were close to 10 feet tall and wearing red armor appeared out of thin air. Chapter 2772. Ji Tianqing did not know the divine realm like the back of his hand, but he was not far from it. He could tell at a glance that the 5 tall, burly, and ferocious divine beings before him were divines. The divines referred to divine beings born and raised in the divine realm. To put it simply, they were natives of the divine realm. Compared to the divine beings who ascended from the mortal domain, they had more ancient and powerful bloodlines. Not only were they more talented, but their growth was also faster. They also possessed many unique divine abilities. The 5 divines were dark red all over. Their skin was crystal clear like rubies, and one could vaguely see the golden divine bones within. They had no hair on their bodies. Not only were they bald, but they did not even have eyelashes. Their facial features were sunken, and their eyes were dark gold. They were the great Yen divines. What a coincidence! I was just telling them about divine King Jiu Luo and the great Yen divines, and now I'm meeting them. Could this be the great Yen divines' territory? Ji Tianqing raised an eyebrow and muttered to himself. At this moment, the 5 great Yen divines surrounded him. The leader of the great Yen divines sized him up with a sneer and said in a mocking tone, "We've waited for half a year, and only a small fry ascended from the lower realm. Sigh, the ants of the mortal domain are getting more and more useless." There was a hint of disappointment in his tone, and he looked at Ji Tianqing with contempt. Sensing the other party's hostility, Ji Tianqing frowned and asked expressionlessly, "What are you trying to do? Are you trying to rob me?" The divine realm revered the strong, and there was no law or order to speak of. Such things were very common. Moreover, the 5 great Yen divines were all 5th-level heavenly gods. If they wanted to stop Ji Tianqing, they would have kicked an iron plate. The 5 divines were stunned for a moment before they laughed mockingly. "Ha ha ha. Another fellow who's scared out of his wits." The insects of the lower realm were all overlords before they ascended. All of them are very arrogant. Now that they're in the divine realm, they're the lowliest ants. They won't be able to adapt in such a short time. There's no need to talk nonsense with him. Let him wake up and recognize his situation. The leader patted the divine saber on his waist and looked down at Ji Tianqing. He sneered coldly, "Little brat, this is the divine world, the territory of the Bloodfire divine country. It is your honor to be able to ascend to our Blood Flame divine kingdom. However, a small fry from the lower realms like you doesn't have the qualifications to join our Blood Flame divine kingdom's household register. Hand over all the divine artifacts and resources you have on you, then obediently surrender and wait for us to make a trip." Ji Tianqing narrowed his eyes. A cold light flashed in his eyes. Blood Flame divine kingdom. Join the household register. 1,000 years ago, he had never heard of something like a household register in the God realm. The gods who had just ascended to the God realm were also free to come and go as they pleased. Seeing that he was confused, the leader of the Protoss said to the one-eyed Protoss beside him, "Lin Yenshi, explain to him." "Captain, what's there to explain? Just take him down." The one-eyed Protoss grinned. He was too lazy to waste his breath. The captain chuckled and said, "We are under orders to carry out a mission. Of course, we have to explain clearly before we take action. Otherwise, if these small fries mistakenly think that we are blocking the road and want to rob them, wouldn't it damage the dignity of the divine kingdom?" "All right." Lin Yenshi nodded helplessly. He stared at Ji Tianqing with his one-eyed Protoss and said arrogantly, "Little brat, we are the Thunder Pool guards of the Blue Mountain City. We are under orders to guard the Thunder Pool. According to the law of the Blood Flame divine country, ascenders must surrender. You have to hand over all the resources and divine artifacts on you. Then, we will put the soul fixation spell on you and you will follow us to the Blue Mountain City's household register. Only when you are registered in the household register will you have a legal identity and become a slave of the Blood Flame divine country. Then, the city guards will bring you to the Blue Mountain Mine. There, you will be forced to work for 500 years. After you complete the mission, you will regain your freedom and become a lowly commoner of the Blue Mountain City." Lin Yenshi explained in a serious tone. He stared at Ji Tianqing and asked, "Little brat, did you hear that clearly?" Ji Tianqing turned a deaf ear to his words. The situation now was completely different from the divine world thousands of years ago. What household register, slaves, 500 years of forced labor and lowly commoners. These were all things that he had never heard of. No matter what, Ji Tianqing would not agree to it. In fact, he thought that it was ridiculous. He stared at the Thunder Pool Guard captain coldly and asked, "Is this the rule of the Blood Flame Divine Country or the Great Yan Empire?" The Thunder Pool Guard captain's body shook. He frowned and asked, "Little brat, how do you know about the Great Yan Empire? How could a small fry that just ascended from the lower realm know about the Great Yan Empire?" The Thunder Pool Guard captain calmed down and immediately thought of another question. This white-robed little brat in front of him had just ascended to the divine world and actually knew the divine world's common language. Ji Tianqing did not answer. He said coldly again, "The Thunder Pool is formed by the will of the heavens. It does not belong to any divine country or power. The people that ascended from the Thunder Pool also do not belong to any divine country's people. What the Blood Flame Divine Country is doing is going against the will of the heavens. Did you get the approval of the Great Yan Empire?" These righteous and high-spirited words stunned the 5 Thunder Pool guards. Ji Tianqing's body emitted an invisible pressure, which calmed them down and even made them fearful. The 5 of them were shocked and in disbelief. They stared at Ji Tianqing with burning eyes. After a while, the Thunder Pool Guard captain regained his senses. He sneered and said, "Little brat, you are indeed interesting. You are much stronger than those useless ascenders. However, you are just a small true god. Don't try to intimidate us. To tell you the truth, this law was issued by the Great Yan Empire. The Thunder Pool is formed by the will of the heavens. But this place is our Blood Flame Divine Country's territory. You appearing here, standing on the Blood Flame Divine Country's territory, you are our Blood Flame Divine Country's slave." Ji Tianqing furrowed his brows and was somewhat stunned in his heart. He muttered to himself, "These few fellows are all level 5 celestial deity realm. How can they not perceive my strength realm?" After thinking for a while, he understood the reason. It was definitely related to the heaven-mending pearl. Most likely, the heaven-mending pearl concealed his divine spark aura, isolating the 5 Thunder Pool Guards' divine sense probing. The 5 Thunder Pool Guards guarded this place all year round and had seen countless ascenders. They were all true god realm strength. Naturally, they determined that he was a true god too. Right at this time, the Thunder Pool Guard captain pulled out a black divine saber and pointed at Ji Tianqing as he said coldly, "Little brat, we have guarded the Thunder Pool for 100 years. The ascenders that we have seen before, if not 800, are at least 500. People who are more pretentious and more arrogant than you are too many to count. In the end, didn't they still surrender without putting up a fight? Don't waste time. This seat's patience is limited. Immediately hand over all divine artifacts and resources. Otherwise, this seat will kill you immediately and not even have the chance to be a slave." Chapter 2773. Following the Thunder Pool Guard captain's words. The other 4 Thunder Pool Guards all pulled out their swords and sabers, ready to attack. The atmosphere in the field immediately became tense. The 5 Thunder Pool Guards were filled with killing intent, releasing a strong pressure that enveloped Ji Tianqing. If it were other ascenders, with only the strength of a true god, they would immediately admit defeat. They would obediently give up their weapons and resources, and obediently go to the Blue Mountain Mine to do 500 years of hard labor. But Ji Tianqing did not move, without any fear. He stared at the Thunder Pool Guard captain, and asked coldly, "Are you sure you want to attack, without any room for negotiation?" The Thunder Pool Guard captain laughed coldly, he. "Now you want to beg for mercy? It's too late. Kneel down and allow yourself to be captured." As he said that, he stepped across the sky, holding his saber and approaching Ji Tianqing. The pressure of an Empyrean god rushed over. Ji Tianqing did not speak, his right hand holding the Burial of Heaven sword, and handed it over to the Thunder Pool Guard captain. Seeing this, the Thunder Pool Guard captain was even more disdainful, his face full of disdain as he laughed coldly, he. Pretentious dog, I will peel off your skin, and send you to hard labor. After saying that, he was about to reach out and take the Burial of Heaven sword. The other 4 Thunder Pool guards also revealed a mocking cold smile. But right at this time, Ji Tianqing held the Burial of Heaven sword in his right hand, and suddenly stabbed towards the Thunder Pool Guard captain. Shwa! The dazzling golden sword light bloomed, like thunder breaking through the sky. From Ji Tianqing holding the sword to stabbing towards the Thunder Pool Guard captain who was 20 feet away, it only took a quarter of an instant. That sword was extremely ruthless and decisive, and its speed was unbelievably fast. Sometimes, the truly powerful sword technique did not lie in the beautiful moves. Ping! Only a muffled sound could be heard. The Burial of Heaven sword instantly pierced through the red helmet, from the forehead of the Thunder Pool Guard captain, into his head. The dark red diamond-shaped divinity in his mind was pierced until it exploded on the spot. One sword kill. The Thunder Pool Guard captain didn't even have time to react, nor did he have time to dodge. He didn't even expect that Ji Tianqing would dare to assassinate him. Even at the moment of his death, the mocking sneer was still frozen on his face. The other 4 Thunder Pool guards were shocked by Ji Tianqing's ruthlessness and decisiveness. They widened their eyes in horror. In the next moment, the 4 of them regained their senses and immediately brandished their swords and sabers at Ji Tianqing. Bastard! You actually killed the captain. Damned reptile! You're dead meat. Die without a burial place. Everyone, be careful. He's not a true god. The 4 of them roared angrily as they executed their lost techniques and divine abilities to besiege Ji Tianqing. In an instant, Ji Tianqing's figure was engulfed by the flames and 5-colored divine light that blotted out the sky. Ji Tianqing didn't evade at all. Once again, he used his ultimate sword technique and stabbed out 36 times in an instant. Swish! Swish! He turned into a phantom and flickered in the crowd. The bright golden sword light lit up, drifting erratically, and its whereabouts were strange. Bang! 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 With a muffled sound, 2 of the 4 Thunder Pool guards were instantly killed on the spot. One was hit in the forehead by a sword, and his divinity was destroyed by the Burial of Heaven. The other was hit in the back of the head by a sword. Half of his head was cut off, and his divinity was shattered. The 2 surviving Thunder Pool guards were sent flying by the sword light. The crimson armor was broken, and there were a few more wounds on the divine body. Blood flowed. The 2 of them fell more than 10 miles away. They were scared out of their wits and hurriedly turned to flee to the distant mountain peak. On that mountain peak, there were dozens of palaces and houses, and a large number of Thunder Pool guards were stationed there. Help! An ascender resisted and killed Captain Lin. While the 2 of them fled desperately, they didn't forget to shout for help. Time was tight, and the 2 of them didn't have time to send a communication jade slip. What's more, the Thunder Pool guards' camp was just 500 miles away. Swish! In the next moment, Ji Tianqing teleported dozens of miles and caught up with one of the Thunder Pool guards. Swish! The Burial of Heaven stabbed out fiercely, and like a thunderbolt, it instantly pierced into the back of the Thunder Pool guard's head. Bang! The violent divine power exploded, blowing the person's head into pieces. A dark red diamond-shaped divinity, along with the blood and brain matter, spilled out and scattered on the grass. Ji Tianqing didn't stop. He teleported another 100 miles and caught up with the last Thunder Pool guard. Swish! He raised his hand and the sword fell. A bloody hole appeared in the back of the person's head, and his divinity was shattered on the spot. The burly corpse fell from the sky and smashed on the grass with a plop. Ji Tianqing glanced at the corpse and grabbed the spatial ring and broken divinity across the air. Then, he turned and flew to the other 4 corpses to seize the spatial ring and divinity fragments. He was very clear that the situation in the divine realm had changed. It was necessary to have a household registration to move around. And he had just arrived, so he had to accumulate wealth and resources as soon as possible to seize a large number of divinity crystals. Divinity crystals could be used for cultivation, and it was also the common currency in the divine realm. Without divinity crystals, it was difficult to move an inch. Swish! Ji Tianqing had just put away the 5 spatial rings and didn't have time to swallow the divinity fragments. On the mountain peak 500 miles away, dozens of divine lights had already lit up, and they were rushing over as fast as lightning. Obviously, the Thunder Pool guards in the camp were alarmed and were rushing over to support. Ji Tianqing turned around without hesitation and fled in the opposite direction. Burrow! He used the law of earth, and his figure flashed and burrowed into the ground, escaping as fast as lightning. After a short 10 breaths, he had escaped more than 5,000 miles and passed through more than a dozen mountain ranges. But the group of Thunder Pool guards in red armor locked onto his aura and relentlessly chased after him. The distance between the 2 sides was constantly closing, and they were only 300 miles apart. At the latest, dozens of Thunder Pool guards would catch up with Ji Tianqing in 100 breaths. At that time, he would definitely be besieged and in danger. Although he had all kinds of trump cards and ultimate skills, his combat strength was valiant. There were also Yun Yao, Ji Ku, and the others who could help at any time. But this was the territory of the Blood Flame Divine Kingdom, and the Great Yen Divine Race could be seen everywhere. Once Ji Tianqing was surrounded, he would have to face an endless stream of enemies. Even if he had great divine powers, he would definitely die. The situation was getting more and more critical. Ji Tianqing could only unleash his full strength and use the power of the law of space to teleport thousands of miles away in an instant. Swish! A white light flashed. He crossed a few mountain ranges and appeared in the jungle thousands of miles away. The more than 30 Thunder Pool guards were temporarily shaken off. But they persevered and chased even more desperately. Moreover, they also sent out an emergency message to inform the nearby towns and cities to mobilize a large number of experts to surround and intercept him. Ji Tianqing had guessed this result. In desperation, he could only consume his divine power and teleport continuously in the sky. Swish! 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 Every time the white light flashed, he could teleport 500 miles away. When he was in the mortal world, he could teleport 1,000 miles away every time. Moreover, he could teleport 100 times in a row. But this was the divine realm, which was completely different from the mortal world. An ordinary 6th-level celestial god could only teleport 200 miles at a time. Teleporting 500 miles like him was already an extremely rare genius. Chapter 2774. Ji Tianqing kept running towards the west. 2 days later, he had flown more than 10 million miles. He had already left Blue Mountain City, far away from the lightning pool. All the lightning pool guards had been shaken off by him, disappearing without a trace. During this process, he passed by several towns and tribes, but he avoided them in advance. No one discovered him, and he didn't encounter any danger on the way. That evening, when the sun was setting, Ji Tianqing entered a vast mountain range and stopped to rest on a 1,000 feet tall mountain peak. He sat on a millstone at the peak of the 1,000 feet tall mountain. After circulating his energy and adjusting his breathing for a moment, he recovered to normal. If it was an ordinary god, continuously teleporting and flying over 10 million miles like him, it would consume at least half of his divine power. But he was different. His divine power was vigorous and majestic, like the sea. There was also the 5 elements world, which continuously provided him with divine power. Therefore, he was only a little mentally tired, and he would be fine after resting for a while. The sun set, and the surroundings became dark. The world was quiet, and one could vaguely hear the occasional beast roar from the distant mountains. Ji Tianqing ended his meditation and took out a few divine spark fragments. This was the divine spark of the lightning pool guard captain. Even though it was broken into 8 diamond-shaped crystals, it still emitted vigorous divine power. Ji Tianqing held the divine spark fragment in his left hand and silently released the devouring divine power. Suddenly, a black vortex the size of an egg appeared in his palm. The divine spark fragments were all swallowed by the vortex and melted at an extremely fast speed. Not long after, the 8 divine spark fragments were all swallowed, turning into violent divine power that entered the heaven-mending orb. The divine power was purified by the heaven-mending orb, removing all the impurities, leaving only 80% of the divine power. Then, the heaven-mending orb swallowed 40% of the divine power. The remaining 40% of the divine power was transferred to Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing's divine power was strengthened, and it quickly grew stronger. Moreover, he circulated his energy and found that the newly fused divine power didn't have any sluggishness or rejection. It perfectly fused with his divine power, without any wastage. It was just like the divine power that he cultivated himself. This result made Ji Tianqing overjoyed. Great! It was the first time I used the devouring divine power. After being purified by the heaven-mending pearl, I was able to fuse it perfectly. In this way, not only can I increase my strength quickly, but there won't be any risks. He hurriedly took out the other 4 quintessence fragments and used the black vortex to devour them one by one. Half an hour later, he had devoured all 4 Godhead fragments. Half of the divine power that had been purified by the heaven-mending orb was refined by him, while the other half was devoured by the heaven-mending orb. He could clearly feel that his strength had increased by 20%. The power of the heaven-mending pearl had also increased slightly. Even though he was still very far from the 7th level of the celestial god realm, this was a perfect start. He believed that before long, he could advance to the 7th level celestial deity realm. When Ji Tianqing finished his cultivation, night had already fallen. He sat on the millstone and looked up at the starry sky. He murmured, "Next, I have to find a way to enter the city. I can't stay in the wilderness forever. I have to familiarize myself with this unfamiliar god realm as soon as possible and search for more clues." As soon as he finished speaking, a cold laugh filled with killing intent came from the night sky 100 miles behind him. "An ant that's going to die for sure, still thinking so much." This was the voice of a middle-aged man. Cold, sharp, like ice shards, making people feel a bone-piercing chill. Ji Tianqing suddenly got up, his right hand gripping the sword of burial of heaven, his eyes looking coldly at the night sky. Only to see a streak of crimson-red light suddenly appear in the gloomy sky. Swoosh! 3 dark red divine swords that were more than 10 feet long pierced down from the sky, aiming straight for Ji Tianqing's vital points. Those 3 divine swords were all surrounded by crimson flames, illuminating the night sky within a radius of 100 miles. Before the divine swords arrived, an unparalleled violent sword intent attacked, locking onto Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing executed the Big Dipper step, his figure flickering 3 times in a row, dodging the attacks of the 3 divine swords. Of course, those 3 divine swords all brushed past him. The scorching and violent divine flames were practically about to ignite his white robe and long hair. Bam! 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 Following 3 muffled explosions. The 3 divine swords stabbed into the grassland on the mountain peak loudly, arranged in a triangular formation. And Ji Tianqing was right in the middle of the 3 divine swords. Swoosh! A white light flashed. A middle-aged man more than 10 feet tall descended from the night sky, landing 1,000 feet in front of Ji Tianqing. This person was dark red all over, his facial features sunken, and his eyes sinister. He wore black armor, with a dark red wide cloak draped over his shoulders, and a pair of pitch-black, ferocious combat boots on his feet. As soon as he landed, his entire body burst forth with an invisible divine power, enveloping a radius of 100 miles. All of a sudden, this area was sealed by him. There was no wind blowing or grass moving, even the air froze. Ji Tianqing looked over with a cold gaze, glanced at the badge on his chest, and recognized this person's identity. The leader of the Thunder Pool Guards, 9th level Celestial Deity Realm. Your Excellency is not simple, to actually be able to track thousands of miles, Ji Tianqing said expressionlessly. The middle-aged man stared at him like lightning, and said in a deep voice, "This seat is Lin Wuji, Blue Mountain City Guard Qian Hu, in charge of the Thunder Pool Guards. In the past 100 years, this seat has seen more than 400 ascenders. Those who dared to resist and escape after killing the Thunder Pool Guards, there were only 3. To be able to escape Blue Mountain City's range, worthy of this seat personally pursuing, only you alone." Lin Wuji's voice was like a great bell, saying with an imposing manner. "You killed 5 Thunder Pool Guards, you're already dead for sure. Before killing you, this seat has a question." Ji Tianqing sneered, "You're going to die soon, why ask so much?" Lin Wuji frowned fiercely, his golden eyes flashing with a cold light, and said with a cold smile, "Ha ha ha. You're very confident. This seat understands, ascenders who can successfully enter the divine realm, which one isn't a formidable character and overlord of a region. It's just a pity that you met this seat, no matter how confident you are, it's hard to escape death." Finished talking, Lin Wuji did not talk nonsense anymore, and asked straightforwardly, "You can kill 5 Thunder Pool Guards, and escape here within 2 days. This shows that you have at least 7th level Celestial Deity Realm strength. But you're an ascender who just stepped out of the lightning pool. It's absolutely impossible to reach 7th level Celestial Deity Realm. There's only one explanation. You're very lucky, obtaining a heavenly Tao lucky chance in the lightning pool. Hand it over. This seat will spare you from death." Lin Wuji's tone was very certain, and it was filled with a domineering determination to get it. Ji Tianqing raised his brows and said with a ruminating smile, "You're very good, to actually be able to deduce this level of reason. But very sadly, I'm not as lucky as you think." "What heavenly Tao lucky chance, I've never heard of it." Ji Tianqing denied flatly. "Because he borrowed Earth Law and sensed another obscure powerhouse's aura. It was in that deep ravine 200 miles away, and it was very well hidden. Being in a place where danger lurked everywhere, he had to be vigilant." Lin Wuji naturally did not believe and laughed contemptuously as he said, "Ha ha ha. Brat, since you don't admit it, then this seat will kill you, then search for you personally. But this seat still advises you, the surrounding 500 million miles is my blood flame divine kingdom's territory. It's already closed in from all directions. You can't escape even if you grow wings, with absolutely no hope of escaping." Chapter 2775. You talk too much. Ji Tianqing glanced at Lin Wuji and said in a low voice. "Ha ha ha. Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish." Lin Wuji laughed maniacally again. With a thought, he manipulated the 2 flaming divine swords and stabbed them at Ji Tianqing as fast as light. The other flaming sword flew into his hand. His left hand shot out a sky full of flames while his right hand waved the sword. In a flash, he was in front of Ji Tianqing. A level 9 celestial god was indeed powerful. However, Ji Tianqing's strength was not any weaker than his celestial dragon tyrant body. Ji Tianqing's body glowed with golden light. In an instant, he turned into a 300-meter tall giant. His blood was boiling and his divine power was surging. His combat power increased by 6 times in an instant. He swept out his left palm and slapped the 2 flaming swords away. He waved the burial of heaven in his right hand and attacked Lin Wuji violently. The lightning sword light that covered the sky and covered the earth poured down like a torrential rain. Bam! 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 Lin Wuji's sword Dao Mystique was completely defeated. After exchanging a few moves, Lin Wuji was forced to retreat continuously, attacking less and defending more. Ji Tianqing was like a ferocious ancient beast, completely suppressing Lin Wuji in his most ferocious and domineering manner. Lin Wuji was shocked and used his mystique in anger. Soaring crimson flames. He ignited his divine blood, and divine flames burst out from his body. He also turned into a giant that was hundreds of meters tall. His body was dark red like blood jade and the golden divine bones inside could be seen clearly. There were thousands of blood flames flowing inside. The two of them fought fiercely with all their might, shaking the earth and filling the sky with sparks. After a short 100 breaths, everything within 100 miles was flattened and the mountains in the distance were turned into a sea of fire. The divine power hidden in the dark retreated 150 miles and continued to hide. Soon, 15 minutes passed. Lin Wuji was forced to retreat again and again. There were more than 20 wounds on his body and his god blood spurted out. Ji Tianqing seized the opportunity to slash apart a flaming sword and landed a punch on Lin Wuji. Dragon Elephant Divine Fist. The mountain-sized dragon elephant phantom crashed into Lin Wuji and sent him flying hundreds of miles away, smashing into half a mountain. Lin Wuji crawled up from the rubble. He was already heavily injured, blood spurting out from his 7 orifices. Between his chest and abdomen, there was a large hole where divine blood flowed out. Impossible. This was absolutely impossible. He's just a reptile that just ascended. Even if he obtained the heavenly Tao's opportunity, it's impossible for him to be so powerful. Lin Wuji was shocked and enraged at the same time, roaring like a madman. He could not believe that Ji Tianqing, who had just ascended for 2 days, already had the strength of a 9th-level heavenly god and severely injured him. Such a miracle was too absurd. But on second thought, Lin Wuji knew that it must have been caused by the heavenly Tao. Exactly what fortuitous encounter of the heavenly Tao did this animal obtain to actually be so formidable? No way. I can't die. I must report this secret to the city lord and the monarch. Thinking of this, Lin Wuji did not continue fighting. After feinting 2 moves, he turned and fled. Just as he pulled away from Ji Tianqing, he could not wait to take out his communication jade slip and send out a message. Whoosh! The dark red jade slip flew into the sky and disappeared in the blink of an eye. After sending out the communication jade slip, Lin Wuji heaved a sigh of relief and continued to teleport away. However, he had just teleported 400 miles and appeared on the peak of a mountain. Suddenly, a shocking saber light slashed over from the side, right above his head. Damn it! He actually has an accomplice. Lin Wuji was shocked and instinctively waved his 2 swords to block that shocking saber light. Kaboom! Amidst the deafening loud noise, the dark green saber light that was thousands of feet long was shattered into pieces. Lin Wuji was also smashed into the mountain. His arms could not stop trembling and he spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. The mountain below his feet was shattered into pieces and more than half of it collapsed. He was buried in the ruins and countless rocks and soil poured down. Before he could fly out, Ji Tianqing had already charged over with his sword. Earth, imprisonment. Ji Tianqing used the law of earth and enveloped the collapsed mountain. The mountain within 100 miles was instantly compressed into a 10-mile golden mountain and imprisoned Lin Wuji. Then, Ji Tianqing held the sword of burial of heaven with both hands and slashed down from the sky. Sky-splitting sword. The dazzling golden sword light that was thousands of feet long slashed down with rolling thunder. Lin Wuji struggled and raised his 2 swords to block, slashing out dozens of flaming swords. Bang! 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 However, those flaming swords were all shattered into pieces. The sword of burial of heaven was unstoppable and hit Lin Wuji with a boom. Immediately, metal and stone splashed and dark red divine blood splattered. Lin Wuji's giant head was split in half by the sword of burial of heaven. Swoosh! A dark red, diamond-shaped godhead flew toward the east at the highest speed possible, along with the blood and minced flesh that filled the sky. However, another blade light slashed from the dark and intercepted Lin Wuji's godhead. Boom! With a muffled sound, the blade light suddenly exploded. Lin Wuji's godhead also flew back, its light much dimmer. Ji Tianqing took the opportunity to swing his sword and slash down with all his strength. Crack! With a crisp explosion, Lin Wuji's godhead was hit by the sword of burial of heaven and exploded into dozens of pieces. Before those pieces fell to the ground, Ji Tianqing waved his hand and captured all the godhead pieces. After putting away the godhead pieces, he turned around and flew away without hesitation, wanting to leave this place. At this moment, a green-robed figure flew out of the darkness and shouted, "Brother, please wait." Ji Tianqing turned a deaf ear to him and teleported to the west. Even though the green-robed figure had helped him kill Lin Wuji, he knew that the green-robed figure had to have some ulterior motives. They didn't know each other, so he didn't need to be entangled with him. Moreover, the battle here was so loud that it could be sensed from thousands of miles away. He had to leave this place as soon as possible, or he would be surrounded by a large group of experts. Swish! With a flash of white light, Ji Tianqing teleported thousands of miles away and disappeared into the darkness. Ah! Why don't you trust me at all? The green-robed figure smiled bitterly and quickly teleported to chase after him. After 100 seconds, both of them had teleported tens of thousands of miles away. However, the green-robed figure was getting further and further away from Ji Tianqing. He had no choice but to take out a greenwood compass and use his ultimate skill. Distance shrink. Swish! With a flash of light, the green-robed figure crossed 8,000 miles and appeared on a mountain peak. He held the greenwood compass in his left hand and put his right hand behind his back. He stood in the sky with a smile and looked at the night sky in the west. After 3 short breaths, swish! Ji Tianqing teleported and appeared in front of the green-robed figure. They were thousands of feet apart. The green-robed figure smiled and said, "Brother, why do you have to be so distant? I mean you no harm, and I even helped you kill Lin Wuji just now. Why don't you stay for 100 seconds and we can talk?" Chapter 2776. Ji Tianqing stared at the green-robed figure expressionlessly, not speaking. This was a divine race youth with a handsome face and a tall figure. This person was more than 2 meters tall, with a fair complexion, a high nose bridge, and a pair of azure blue eyes. A head of dark green hair draped over his shoulders, covering more than half of a pair of pointy ears. Pure white and slender hands had 6 fingers, and the nails were dark green in color. Ji Tianqing thought for a moment, this divine race youth seemed to be from the Azure Forest clan. 10,000 years ago, the Azure Forest clan spread across the 4 continents of the divine realm. They were very prosperous, with as many as 10 billion people. Among the myriad races of the divine realm, the Azure Forest clan once ranked in the top 100. As long as there were forests, flowers, and trees, there was a possibility of seeing the Azure Forest clan. But, because of many reasons, the Azure Forest clan started to decline several thousand years ago. 1,000 years ago, the glorious Azure Forest clan declined to the extreme, fading out of the vision of countless divine beings. Ji Tianqing also did not expect that he would actually encounter a Azure Forest clan here. Furthermore, it was a relatively young youth with outstanding talent. His strength reached level 8 celestial deity realm. At the same time that Ji Tianqing sized up the green-robed youth, the other party was also sizing him up. His eyes were filled with praise and admiration. The two people were silent. After 10 breaths, the green-robed youth finally clasped his hands and bowed, taking the initiative to speak. "This brother, I'm Zhu Qingqing. Greetings." Ji Tianqing just nodded slightly and did not report his name. Instead, he asked, "Zhu Qingqing, if I didn't guess wrongly, you should be from the Azure Forest clan. Speak, what faction is behind you, and who are you representing to find me?" Zhu Qingqing was stunned and asked in disbelief, "Brother, you actually know about the Azure Forest clan?" He was simply stunned. If not for seeing Ji Tianqing step out of the lightning pool with his own eyes, he would have thought that Ji Tianqing had already been in the divine realm for many years. How could an ascender who just entered the divine realm possibly know about the Azure Forest clan? Something strange. There must be something strange. Zhu Qingqing was filled with shock, becoming even more determined to rope in Ji Tianqing. He bowed to Ji Tianqing again and said, "Brother's insight is like a torch. Qingqing admires you greatly." "Brother, you're right. I'm a citizen of the Qinglin clan. Tonight, I passed by this place and coincidentally saw you fighting with Lin Wuji. I felt like an old friend to you at first sight, so I decided to help you. I'm just a wild crane, I don't represent any power." Ji Tianqing glanced at him and sneered, Would idle clouds and wild cranes be hiding near the lightning pool and follow me all the way here? Forget it, since you don't have any sincerity, then we have nothing to talk about." With that, he turned to leave. Zhu Qingqing was shocked again. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. Indeed, Ji Tianqing was right. Previously, he had been keeping watch near the lightning pool, secretly following Ji Tianqing here. When he saw Lin Wuji chasing after him, he hid at the side. He waited until the crucial moment to kill Ji Tianqing. He wanted Ji Tianqing to owe him a favor. This way, he would be able to quickly gain Ji Tianqing's trust. But he didn't expect that Ji Tianqing had already seen through all of this. Zhu Qingqing was shocked and embarrassed. He hurriedly waved his hand and shouted, "Brother, please wait. Please listen to my explanation. I didn't mean to hide it. It's just that the power behind me is somewhat special. You're so wary of me, how would I dare to tell you?" As he spoke, his figure flashed and flew in front of Ji Tianqing, blocking his path again. "Brother, please give me another chance. I won't hide it anymore." Ji Tianqing looked at him calmly and said, "Speak." Zhu Qingqing tidied his green robe and long hair. He transmitted his voice, "Brother, I can tell you my true identity and purpose of coming here. But before that, I would like to ask you to tell me your name." "Tianqing." Ji Tianqing said indifferently. "Brother Tianqing." Zhu Qingqing cupped his fists and transmitted his voice, "To be honest, I'm from the Origin Returning Association. I'm the External Affairs Emissary of the Origin Returning Association. I'm in charge of rescuing the Ascenders of Blue Mountain City. Other than that, I have another mission, which is to rescue and gather the enemies of the Bloodfire Divine Kingdom." Origin Returning Association. Rescue the Ascenders. Ji Tianqing raised an eyebrow. Zhu Qingqing nodded and said, "That's right. 100 years ago, a lightning pool appeared outside Blue Mountain City. The Bloodfire Divine Kingdom immediately ordered a large number of guards to guard it. Any ascenders who walked out of the lightning pool were captured by Blue Mountain City and forced to work in the mines. After working for 500 years, they would be given a lowly status in the Bloodfire Divine Kingdom. This law was issued by the Great Yan Empire and had been implemented 800 years ago. Moreover, the citizens of the Great Yan Empire are divided into 3 classes. The first class Great Yan Divine Race has the highest status. The other divine races are the second class. The ascenders from the lower realms are the third class. They have the lowest status. Ji Tianqing immediately understood what he meant. He continued, "Therefore, many divine races resisted this move, especially the ascenders from the lower realms." Zhu Qingqing nodded and said, that's right. Over the past 100 years, Blue Mountain City has captured more than 400 ascenders. Half of them are forced to work in the mines while the other half are resisting fiercely. Many ascenders risked their lives and tried to escape the mines. Some ascenders were like you. They resisted as soon as they walked out of the lightning pool. As for the other divine races, not all of them were against it. Many of them muddled through and tried to curry favor with the great Yen divine race so that they could live comfortably. Only a small number of divine races were suppressed and massacred by the great Yen divine race and formed a blood feud. That's why they resisted with all their might. Ji Tianqing nodded slightly and asked, in that case, the Greenwood tribe was massacred and formed a blood feud with the great Yen divine race? Yes. Zhu Qingqing explained, more than 2,000 years ago, there were thousands of Greenwood tribes and millions of Greenwood tribe members in the Great Yen Empire. But now, there's not a single Greenwood tribe. There are less than 100 Greenwood tribe members who are still alive. Ji Tianqing asked again, how many people are there in the Origin Returning Association? Do they all have a blood feud with the Great Yen divine race? Zhu Qingqing nodded. Currently, there are more than 300 of them. More than 60 of them are ascenders we rescued. The remaining 200 or so are all divine races who were persecuted by the Great Yen divine race. Ji Tianqing raised an eyebrow and said, the Origin Returning Association's base is in the Bloodflame Divine Nation. You dare to go against the Great Yen divine race with so few of you? I'm afraid Blue Mountain City only needs to send 1,000 city guards to annihilate all of you, right? Zhu Qingqing was stumped by his words. She smiled bitterly and said, Brother Tianqing, you can't say that. Although there aren't many of us in the Origin Returning Association, we're all elites. Especially our 2 chairmen and 4 great elders, they are all Divine Lord realm powerhouses. Of course, our current goal isn't to go against the Great Yen divine race. Our main goal is to provide a safe haven for those who were persecuted by the Great Yen divine race. Chapter 2777. What was a place to settle down? It was just huddling together for warmth. Zhu Qingqing's words were more tactful, but Ji Tianqing was well aware of it. However, he was not interested in the Origin Returning Association, so he did not ask any more. He thought to himself, I vaguely remember that the Great Yen Empire is located in the north of the boundless heaven continent. There are 18 divine nations under its rule. I didn't expect that we would actually ascend to the boundless heaven continent. To reach the Qian Kun continent, not only do we have to cross 2 continents, but we also have to cross an ocean. Unfortunately, only godly kings are qualified to leave the boundless heaven continent. Ji Tianqing's territory back then was on the Qian Kun continent. He really wanted to go back and see what the divine nation that was loyal to him back then was like now. Were the former disciples, guards, and fans still alive now? However, he was currently on the boundless heaven continent. He had to reach the godly king realm before he could cross the continent and the ocean. He had to stay on the boundless heaven continent for the next few hundred years. At this moment, Zhu Qingqing saw that he was silent and was secretly delighted. He asked a few questions about the Origin Returning Association just now. Now that he's silent, he must be considering whether to join us or not. I definitely can't miss such a special and mysterious genius. I must pull him into the Origin Returning Association. At this thought, Zhu Qingqing said, Brother Tianqing, you've just ascended to the godly realm, so you must be very unfamiliar with this place. Moreover, you killed Lin Wuji and 5 Thunder Pool guards. You're currently wanted by the Bloodfire Divine Nation. No matter where you go, you'll be besieged by the Great Yen divine race. I know you're powerful and resourceful. You're definitely not afraid of the Great Yen divine race's revenge. But you're all alone after all, and your forces are weak. Your situation is too dangerous. Why don't you come with me to the Origin Returning Association and stay for a while? Not only can you hide temporarily, but you can also familiarize yourself with the situation here as soon as possible. Zhu Qingqing's attitude was very friendly and not arrogant at all. Seeing that Ji Tianqing was silent, he struck while the iron was hot and said, I know that you don't know enough about the Origin Returning Association and are still wary. But that's all right. The Origin Returning Association has never forced people to do things against their will, and we won't force anyone to join us. You can decide whether to stay or leave after you understand the Origin Returning Association. Ji Tianqing declined to comment and asked, where is the Gue Yuan Association's main camp? Is it safe? Zhu Qingqing thought that he was going to agree and was even more surprised. However, he feigned a troubled expression as he said, Brother Tianqing, you should know that we can't easily reveal the location of our base. Otherwise, we'll be surrounded by the great Yen divines. For the safety of more than 300 brothers, I shouldn't have told you. But I felt like you were an old friend at first sight and felt that you were trustworthy, so I made an exception for you. Our Origin Returning Association's headquarters is in the Sunset Sea region, north of the Blood Flame Divine Kingdom. If it was a normal person, they definitely wouldn't be able to withstand Zhu Qingqing's kindness and would have to dispel the worries in their hearts. However, Ji Tianqing frowned and asked expressionlessly, Sunset Sea? That was the territory of the sea beasts. The Sea Beast clan is the most xenophobic. If the Origin Returning Association associates themselves with them, wouldn't they have long become the Sea Beast's dinner? Zhu Qingqing's heart skipped a beat. Cold sweat broke out on her back. A look of astonishment flashed across his eyes as he roared in his heart, what the hell? Didn't this kid just ascend? He actually knows about the Sunset Sea region. He even knows about the Sea Beast clan. This guy is too strange. How can he be a new ascendant? Although she was shocked, Zhu Qingqing's expression didn't change. She quickly explained, Brother Tianqing's knowledge is extraordinary. It's really unexpected. However, Brother Tianqing, you misunderstood. How can our Origin Returning Association associate ourselves with the ferocious sea beasts? To be honest, our headquarters is on an island near the sea. That's the border between the Great Yen Empire and the Sunset Sea region. The Great Yen Divine Kingdom doesn't dare to step into that place, and the sea beasts won't come close either. Ji Tianqing nodded and didn't pursue the matter any further. He looked at Zhu Qingqing expressionlessly and said calmly, I won't go with you to the Origin Returning Association. I have my own arrangements and plans. You don't have to waste your breath. You can pretend that nothing happened tonight. After that, Ji Tianqing turned and flew away. Zhu Qingqing quickly caught up with him and asked through voice transmission, Brother Tianqing, where are you going? This is Green Mountain City's territory. There are Great Yen Divine Kingdom elites everywhere. You'll be surrounded very soon. Ji Tianqing glanced at him and said indifferently, you don't have to worry about where I'm going. I don't believe that. Zhu Qingqing said righteously, the Origin Returning Association's duty is to protect the ascendants who are being persecuted. Brother Tianqing, it's fine if you don't go with me to the Origin Returning Association. However, you have to tell me where you're going. I have a divine artifact that can send you on your way. I guarantee that you'll be able to avoid the Great Yen Divine Kingdom's encirclement. Ji Tianqing glanced at the greenwood compass in his hand and said, I'm going to Green Mountain City. Are you sure you want to send me there? Huh? Zhu Qingqing's expression changed. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Brother Tianqing, are you kidding? The guards of Green Mountain City and Blue Mountain City are searching for you everywhere. You're walking right into their trap. Ji Tianqing was unmoved. He said indifferently, haven't you heard of this saying? The most dangerous place is the safest place. Zhu Qingqing choked again. He hesitated for a moment, then gritted his teeth as though he had made up his mind about something. Then, he caught up to Ji Tianqing again, took out a dark red token, and handed it to Ji Tianqing. Brother Tianqing, as the Origin Returning Association's Foreign Affairs Envoy, I can't just sit by and watch you die in Green Mountain City. This is Green Mountain City's household registration token. It's registered as a second-class Divine Kingdom. You can only enter and leave Blood Flame Divine Kingdom cities with this token. If you don't have it, you'll be captured by the guards immediately and sent to the mines for hard labor. Ji Tianqing stopped flying and turned to look at the household registration token. He asked Zhu Qingcheng, I've never met you before, and I won't join the Origin Returning Association. Why are you giving me a household registration token? Zhu Qingcheng smiled and said, Firstly, Lin Wuji killed more than 10 of our brothers. We have a blood feud with him. Tonight, you killed Lin Wuji, which can be considered as avenging us. Secondly, even if you don't join the Origin Returning Association, it's fine. We've known each other for a while, so it's good to form a good relationship. In the future, if you're in danger or have any difficulties, come find me. I'll still help you. Then, he took out a communication jade slip and handed it to Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing knew that if he really needed Zhu Qingcheng's help in the future, he would have to join the Origin Returning Association. But he believed that day wouldn't come. After thinking for a moment, Ji Tianqing took the household registration token and the communication jade slip. He bowed to Zhu Qingcheng and said, Thank you, Brother Zhu. I owe you a favor, and I'll definitely repay it in the future. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave now. Then, he turned and flew to the west, quickly disappearing into the night sky. Chapter 2778. Zhu Qingcheng stood where he was and watched as Ji Tianqing disappeared into the night sky. After a long while, he retracted his gaze and muttered with a frown, This guy is really arrogant and vigilant. He understood that Ji Tianqing was talking about owing him a favor, not owing the Origin Returning Association a favor. This meant that Ji Tianqing had never considered joining the Origin Gathering Association. However, it's normal for a genius with a mysterious background like him to be a little arrogant. I have to report this to the president as soon as possible. I believe the president will have a way to recruit him. Zhu Qingcheng murmured to herself. She hurriedly took out a communication jade slip and reported the matter in detail. After sending the transmission jade slip, he entered the vast forest and quickly left. Ji Tianqing flew west. After flying 1,000,000 miles, he stopped to rest. Hiding in a mountain, he took out Lin Wuji's quintessence fragment and devoured it. Lin Wuji was stronger, and his divine power was purer. After refining the quintessence fragment, Ji Tianqing and the heaven-mending pearl each received half of the divine power. Apart from that, Lin Wuji's quintessence fragment had condensed 9 laws. Among the heavenly deities, he was already considered an outstanding figure. After the quintessence fragment shattered, 4 laws were damaged. As for the other 5 perfectly preserved laws, Ji Tianqing had already mastered 3 of them. Therefore, he refined the other 2 laws as well. One was the law of blood flame, and the other was the law of dark flame. They were unique laws that only the great Yan divine clan possessed. In this way, Ji Tianqing had grasped as many as 14 laws. After devouring a sea of divine power, his strength increased by 30%, and he continued to advance toward the 7th level of the heavenly god realm. After cultivating for an hour, he continued on his way, heading straight for Green Mountain City. Along the way, he encountered more than a dozen great Yan divine clan elites. Clearly, they were Azure Mountain City's guards who had been ordered to search for him in the mountains. Naturally, he would not come into direct contact with them and avoided them in advance. The next morning, the sun had just risen. Ji Tianqing left the endless mountains and arrived at Azure Mountain City's gates. He knew that Lin Wuji had sent out a message before he died. The guards of Blue Mountain City and Green Mountain City probably already knew about his appearance and characteristics. If he continued to maintain his original appearance, he might be recognized. Thus, he used the law of change to slightly change his appearance. He turned into a young man who was more than 10 feet tall and had a burly body. He was dressed in a black robe. His facial features had also changed slightly. He was no longer as handsome and heroic as before. Instead, he looked slightly more ordinary. This was especially true for his eyes, which easily revealed his extraordinary temperament. Therefore, he turned his eyes golden as well. His appearance looked like that of an ordinary Protoss, so he did not attract much attention. Qingshan City was huge. The city had a radius of 1,000 miles and was situated on a grassland surrounded by mountains. The weather was pleasant. The 300-meter-tall brown city wall was built with 30-meter-long boulders. It had experienced thousands of years of vicissitudes, leaving behind mottled traces. As they got closer, they could feel the majestic pressure of the ancient city. Ji Tianqing leisurely walked towards the eastern city gate, secretly observing this majestic city. The 99-meter-tall wide city gate was still tightly shut at this moment. On the city wall, hundreds of guards wearing fiery red armor and carrying swords and spears could be clearly seen. Those were the city guards of Green Mountain City. They all had the strength of a heavenly god. The strength of an ordinary guard was between the second and third level of the heavenly god realm. Fourth and fifth level of the heavenly god realm could be the captain of the guards. And the city guards Qianhu and commanders were all above the sixth level of the heavenly god realm. Seeing this scene, Ji Tianqing thought to himself, currently, it seems that only the strength of the citizens of the heavenly god realm has not changed much. It was like this 1,000 years ago. Most people were void gods, the weakest at the bottom of the heavenly god realm. Then there were the large number of true gods who could only be ordinary citizens. Only heavenly gods dared to call themselves experts. They could be the guards and commanders of cities and towns. They were the backbone of countless kingdoms and forces. As for divine lord realm experts, they were usually the lords of a city or the leaders of a sect or gang. Experts above the seventh level of the divine lord realm were even rarer. They could usually rule over a kingdom. Ji Tianqing thought silently as he walked to the city gates. Outside the city gates, more than 100 people had already gathered, waiting in line to enter the city. Most of these people were the gods of Green Mountain City and the citizens of the surrounding cities. There were also a few great Yen divines who seemed to be adventurers or mercenaries. All of them were severely injured and extremely weak. Even so, they did not dare to rush or make a ruckus. They quietly waited for the city gates to open. Apart from that, there was a group of merchants who came from afar. They brought more than 20 heavenly god guards with them. They surrounded 3 bronze carriages. These carriages were pulled by 4 white-winged Pegasi. They were particularly eye-catching in the crowd. After the white-winged Pegasi landed, they waited docilely and did not make any noise. Ji Tianqing was curious. He used his divine sense to probe the bronze carriages. He immediately saw that there were more than 100 crystal balls in the bronze carriages. Each crystal ball was as big as a washbasin. There were many divine beasts sealed inside. There were divine foxes, divine leopards, divine wolves, divine pigs, divine snakes. There were all sorts of divine beasts. Ji Tianqing immediately understood that this group of merchants was in the pet business. Many gods and nobles would buy a large number of pets as mounts or battle beasts. He was about to withdraw his divine sense when a powerful wave of divine sense flashed across the first bronze carriage. Bang! Ji Tianqing's divine sense was hit. He blacked out and his body was paralyzed for a moment. The next moment, he was back to normal. Clearly, the other party did not intend to kill him. They were just warning him with their actions. "Sir, don't you think it's rude to peep at others so blatantly?" A clear female voice was heard in Ji Tianqing's mind. Ji Tianqing looked up out of reflex. He saw a graceful female god wearing silver armor sitting on the first bronze carriage. She was a young female three-eyed god. She was half a step away from becoming a divine lord. She was 2 meters tall and had a golden sword hanging from her waist. She was full of vigor. A pair of icy blue eyes could be seen under the helmet. There was also an eye on her forehead that was as clear as a sapphire. When Ji Tianqing looked at her, she also turned her head and glanced at Ji Tianqing indifferently. Ji Tianqing cupped his fists at her without saying anything. It was considered an apology. The silver-armored woman did not pursue the matter. She turned her head and waited for the city gate to open. 15 minutes later, the bell on the city wall rang. Clang! Clang! It's time. Open the city gate. Then, the wide and heavy city gate slowly opened to both sides. Hundreds of red-armored guards stepped out and guarded the city gate with swords and halberds. The civilians at the front of the line quickly took out their household registration badges and handed them to the city guards for inspection. They were waiting to be let in. Chapter 2779. The citizens at the front of the line verified their household registration cards and paid 10 god stones before entering the city. Then, it was the merchant group's turn. A black-robed elder handed a jade archive to the city guard captain. The city guard captain glanced at it and then at the 3 carriages of the merchant group before his gaze landed on the silver-armored lady. Miss Siyuan, are you here to deliver the goods personally again? It's such a long journey and you must be tired. You should rest in the city for a few more days. The city guard captain revealed a smile and bowed to the silver-armored woman, showing respect and flattery. The silver-armored lady's expression was cold as she ignored the city guard captain's flattery. However, the black-robed elder smiled and said, "This batch of goods is very important. Of course, Miss Siyuan has to escort it personally. I heard that there's a big event in Green Mountain City and Miss Siyuan is interested. Of course, she'll stay for a few more days." The city guard captain's eyes lit up as he hurriedly said, "If Miss Siyuan is participating, then it's a must. I congratulate Miss Siyuan in advance." The black-robed elder exchanged some pleasantries with him before leading the merchant group through the city gates and into Green Mountain City. After the merchant group entered the city guard captain stopped smiling and carried out his mission with a stern expression. A moment later, an elder from the fallen feather tribe was stopped by 2 red-armored guards. Household registration card, 10 god stones. The white-haired elder from the fallen feather tribe trembled as he took out 100 god stones. He said with a fawning expression, "Sir, I'm from Blue Mountain City. I was attacked by ferocious beasts in the wild and lost my household registration card in the fight. Please make an exception." Before the old man could finish his words, the city guard captain slapped the god stone away and ordered coldly, "You don't have a household registration token. Take him down. Send him to the mine to do hard labor for 500 years before his household registration is restored." The 2 red-armored guards acknowledged the order and immediately placed their swords on the white-haired elder's neck. No matter how the elder begged for mercy and even pleaded with tears, the red-armored guards were unmoved and quickly took him away. Seeing this, Ji Tianqing frowned as a cold light flashed in his eyes. However, the surrounding commoners did not react at all. It was obvious that they were already used to this. 100 breaths later, it was Ji Tianqing's turn. He took out the household registration card that Zhu Qingcheng had given him and handed it to the red-armored guard in front of him. The red-armored guard used a dark red jade plate and returned it to him after inspecting it. 10 divine stones. Ji Tianqing remained silent. With a flip of his hand, he took out 10 godstones and handed them to the red-armored guard. Fortunately, when he killed the 5 Thunder Pool guards earlier, he plundered their spatial rings. Those Thunder Pool guards were not wealthy. Ji Tianqing only managed to obtain a batch of heavenly god tier materials and medicinal pills, as well as tens of thousands of divine stones. However, this was enough for him to do a lot of things. "Go in." The red-armored guard took the 10 god stones and waved his hand. Ji Tianqing strode through the city gate and stepped onto a straight and wide road. The granite-paved road was very smooth and clean. It was 20 zhang wide and extended all the way to the center of the city. This was one of the main roads of Qingshan City. Red maple trees were planted on both sides of the road. It was fiery red and very eye-catching. Behind the rows of red maple trees was a small path for pedestrians to play. It was 30 zhang wide and beside it were rows upon rows of houses and shops. In the many shops, there was a dazzling array of goods. Divine weapons, armors, medicinal herbs, cloth, restaurants and tea-houses had everything that one could wish for. The gods and commoners of various races strolled leisurely, strolling around the many shops. It was very relaxing. Ji Tianqing walked along the road for hundreds of miles. Along the way, he saw hundreds of thousands of commoners and gods. Whether it was the shops in the streets or the tea-houses and wine shops on both sides of the road, they were all crowded and surging with people. This Qingyang city was more prosperous than he had expected. Moreover, he discovered that the commoners in the city were carefree and undisciplined from the bottom of their hearts. 99% of the commoners and gods did not wear armor or carry weapons with them. To put it simply, the entire city did not have a trace of chaos. There was also no aura of battle or killing. Instead, it was filled with peace, tranquility, and undisciplined feeling. The divine world 1,000 years ago, no matter which continent it was not like this. Fights, robberies, and killings could be seen everywhere. In such a big city, there could be conflicts at any time. Who would have thought that today, 1,000 years later, it would be so peaceful? Ji Tianqing was secretly puzzled. He was interested and curious about the situation of Qingyang City and the blood-flame divine country. 4 hours later, Ji Tianqing strolled for more than 200 li and walked to the square in the center of the city. This square was 30 li in radius. Not only was it wide and flat, but it was also built very delicately. It was noon. There were not many people strolling in the huge square. The hundreds of red-armored guards guarding the square also had a lazy and leisurely attitude. Ji Tianqing stepped into the square. His gaze was fixed on the thousands of zhang-tall statues in the middle of the square. In the middle of many squares, there would be a statue erected. This was very common. The statues in the square of a sect were usually of the founder who had founded the sect. In the square of a city, there would usually be a statue of a king or a peerless hero. In this square, there were a total of 3 statues erected. The statue in the middle was the tallest. It was thousands of zhang tall. The carving was lifelike and majestic. Even from 10 li away, Ji Tianqing could see it clearly. It was a middle-aged man with a thin body and a dark face. He wore a black robe with golden patterns. His purple hair draped over his shoulders. His face was as sharp as an axe. Especially his eyes. They were as sharp as an eagle's, as if they could pierce the sky. His hands were as thin as an eagle's claws. There were 6 sharp and narrow wings on his back. His chin was also like a curved blade. It was this black-robed man who did not look graceful or luxurious. His appearance was ordinary, and his aura was somewhat sinister. But he was carved with a dignified appearance. He looked down on the world and was as domineering as the heavens overlooking the earth. When Ji Tianqing saw the statue's appearance, his footsteps froze. His brows furrowed. His eyes flashed with astonishment and killing intent. It's him. It's actually him. Without a doubt. Ji Tianqing knew the black-robed man who was carved with a domineering and dignified air. Not only did he know him, but he was also an irreconcilable enemy. Azura God King. Ji Tianqing stared at the statue and muttered in his heart. His fists were also secretly clenched. In an instant, memories from 1,000 years ago surged into his mind, evoking endless killing intent. Because back then, the 5 great god kings schemed against him. They joined forces to besiege him and snatch his heaven-punishing array diagram. And the Asura god king was one of the 5. The 5 great god kings gathered more than 10,000 divine lords and allied with various major factions. They used decades to set up a trap before finally killing him. The battle in the starry skies was unprecedented, and it was incomparably tragic. Kenshin perished with hatred. Bright Moon perished. White Dragon perished. 10,000 gods perished. Ever since Ji Tianqing recovered his memories, there was not a moment when he did not think of revenge. Even the laborers and farmers from the countryside had to recognize His Majesty, God Emperor Asura. How could you not know him? Master of the continent. Asura God Emperor. Ji Tianqing's heart shook as he muttered to himself. 1,000 years have passed, and the Asura God King actually took control of the boundless heaven continent and became the master of boundless heaven? How was this possible? This is too preposterous. 1,000 years ago, there were countless god kings, empires, and super forces on the 4 continents. There has never been a god king or a force that could unify the entire continent. The Asura god king, how is this possible? Ji Tianqing found it hard to believe. He calmed himself down and asked the finely dressed young man, "Brother, I've only heard that the strongest person on the continent was called a god king. When was there such a thing as a god emperor? Could it be that the Asura god king proclaimed himself the god emperor after unifying the boundless heaven continent?" The finely dressed young man's expression became even stranger when he heard this. He looked Ji Tianqing up and down a few times before asking in a low voice, "Brother, tell me the truth. Did you lose your memory? Or are you saying that you've been cultivating in seclusion for over 900 years and know nothing about the changes on the continent? You're lucky to have met me today. If you had said this to anyone else, you would have been thrown into prison long ago. To dare blaspheme the Asura God Emperor's divine might like this is a capital offense that requires beheading." Ji Tianqing hurriedly nodded and said with a voice transmission, "Brother indeed has discerning eyes like torches and is warm-hearted. I'm very grateful. Truth be told, I mistakenly barged into a mystic realm many years ago and suffered heavy injuries, almost losing my life. A few days ago, I just escaped by a fluke, but I lost my past memories. Currently, I'm muddle-headed and feel unfamiliar with everything around me. I'll have to trouble brother to tell me, lest I inadvertently offend the divine might and invite a fatal disaster." Only then did the finely dressed young man come to a realization and repeatedly nodded his head as he said, "So that's how it is. No wonder I saw that your expression was odd, with a blank look. Oh, right, do you have a household registration in your country?" Ji Tianqing was just about to nod his head in agreement when the finely dressed young man waved his hand and said, "No need to mind. This young master was just asking casually. Even if you don't have a household registration, with this young master here, no one dares to check you either." Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows and asked with cupped fists, "May I ask who this brother is?" The finely dressed young man waved his jade fan, puffed out his chest and said proudly, "This young master's surname is Qi Huanji. People call me fair-faced flying dragon. Also, the number 1 rich young master of Green Mountain City, the number 2 genius of Green Mountain City, the owner of the great sun Scarlet Flame Sword, Philanthropist Qi, is also this young master." Your title is really long." Ji Tianqing muttered in his heart, but on the surface, he put on a long-awaited expression and said, "So it's young Master Qi. You're indeed a dragon among men, a young genius." Qi Huanji was flattered and enjoyed Ji Tianqing's words. The smile on his face became even more amiable. Ji Tianqing, on the other hand, could see clearly that although this person had the strength of a 9th-level celestial god, he was a hedonistic rich young master and might not be very capable. The two exchanged a few pleasantries and exchanged identities. They could be considered acquaintances. Qi Huangji was usually idle and indulged in wine and women. In recent days, for some reason, he could no longer be ostentatious and did not want to stay in his residence. Thus, he came out to relax. Coincidentally, he met such an interesting person like Ji Tianqing. Thus, he warmly invited Ji Tianqing to the Star Moon Pavilion. The Star Moon Pavilion was one of the top restaurants in the city. Only the rich and powerful could enter it. Qi Huangji brought Ji Tianqing into the Star Moon Pavilion. Not only did the waiters receive them respectfully, but even the shopkeeper welcomed them with a smile and flattered him. Not long after, Qi Huangji led Ji Tianqing to the third floor and entered his exclusive VIP room. After the fine wine and delicacies were served, Qi Huangji began to explain the matter of the Azura God Emperor. Brother Tianqing, you have to listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you. Don't spread it out after you hear it, or you'll attract trouble. 1,000 years ago, the strongest person in our great Yan Empire, or even the entire Golden Mountain region, or even the entire boundless heaven continent, was a peak godly king. However, 1,000 years ago, the Azura God Emperor understood the secrets of heaven and broke through the godly king realm to reach an even more unfathomable realm. Thus, the Azura God Emperor was known as the God Emperor. He easily defeated all the godly kings and only used 100 years to unify the entire boundless heaven continent. Since then, the Azura God Emperor ruled the boundless heaven continent. He issued many oracles and formulated a series of laws. Ji Tianqing knew what Qi Huangji was thinking, so he did not say anything. Next, Qi Huangji told him the story of the great Yan Empire and the Bloodfire God nation. In the past few hundred years, Qi Huangji had exaggerated the deeds and major events that had been circulating among the people. Ji Tianqing listened quietly and did not comment. 2 hours later, Qi Huangji was getting more and more drunk, and he stopped talking. He patted Ji Tianqing's shoulder and said proudly, "Brother Tianqing, I'm not in a good mood today, but I met such an interesting person like you. Thank you for drinking with me. I'm in a much better mood now. You've just arrived and you've lost your memory. If you don't have anyone to rely on and have nowhere to go, why don't you come back to the Qi residence with me? Anyway, I'm a generous person and love to make friends with people with special abilities from all over the world. By the way, how strong are you? If you're a level 6 heavenly god, I'll arrange a job for you. I guarantee that you'll be respected in Green Mountain City." Ji Tianqing cupped his hands and politely declined his invitation. "Thank you for your kindness, Master Qi, but I'm not in a position to impose." Qi Huangji thought for a while and took out a bag of divine stones. "You don't even have a place to stay in Green Mountain City. Take these divine stones. It'll be convenient for you to eat and stay in the city. If you encounter any difficulties, come to the Qi residence to look for me." Ji Tianqing smiled and shook his head. "Thank you, Master Qi, but I can't accept a reward without any effort. Please take it back. I plan to stay in the Star Moon Pavilion for a few days to settle some things first." Qi Huangji looked at him deeply before taking back the bag of divine stones. He nodded and said, "Not bad, you're an interesting person. You can stay here for now. No one will dare to make things difficult for you if you mention my name. I'll take my leave first. I still have to serve that iceberg lady when I get back. Sigh, what a tough life." Chapter 2782. Qi Huangji shook his head bitterly and left, reeking of alcohol. When he reached the lobby on the first floor, he didn't forget to ask the manager to prepare a good room for Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing sat alone in the VIP room, still thinking about what Qi Huangji had said. The blue-robed manager came in person and took Ji Tianqing to the guest room. The Star Moon Pavilion was large and luxurious. Obviously, it had a powerful background. The 3-story building facing the street was just a place to drink tea and drink. The guest room was in the backyard. There was a palace and 2 courtyards, all of which were protected by a divine formation. The manager led Ji Tianqing into the Chilon courtyard. The courtyard with a radius of 100 meters was clean and elegant, decorated beautifully. Not only that, but there were also 4 guards, 2 maids, and a coachman in the courtyard. Ji Tianqing had asked the manager and found that it would cost 3,000 divine stones a day to stay in this courtyard. That was a sky-high price. Normal celestial gods couldn't afford it. Ji Tianqing killed Lin Wuji in the 5 Thunder Pool guards, took their interspatial rings, and got more than 20,000 divine stones. This could be considered as a small fortune. However, he was only able to pay for 8 days of stay in the Star Moon Pavilion. Ji Tianqing only mentioned when he would pay for the room. The manager bowed at once and said with a smile, "Mr. Tianqing, you must be joking. You are Mr. Qi's friend. How dare we charge you?" Obviously, Ji Tianqing had counted all the money for the room on Qi Huangji's head. This made Ji Tianqing secretly surprised. Was Qi Huangji really a tycoon? He asked around and found out from the shopkeeper at the Qi family was indeed the wealthiest family in Qingshan City. The Qi family was in the pet business and their network was spread across half of the Bloody Blaze divine nation. They were indeed rich. Qi Huangji was the young master of the Qi family. He wasn't interested in cultivation or business, but he was obsessed with traveling the world. However, the rules of the Qi family were very strict. The family master was strict and rigid. Qi Huangji had no chance to leave Qingshan City unless it was something important. Therefore, Qi Huangji was very generous and hospitable to the adventurers, wanderers, and eccentrics who came from afar. After learning this information, Ji Tianqing roughly understood that Qi Huangji was a free, undisciplined, and unambitious dandy. Fortunately, this foppish young master's nature wasn't bad, and he wasn't annoying. After settling Ji Tianqing down, the shopkeeper took his leave and left Chilon courtyard. 2 slender and enchanting maidservants of the Fox God clan entered the room, preparing to help Ji Tianqing undress and bathe. Ji Tianqing waved his hand to dismiss them, and entered the secret room to practice alone. There were several divine formations set up in the 10-meter square secret room. If one cultivated here, they would not be disturbed. Ji Tianqing summoned the 9th heaven 10 absolutes pagoda and summoned Yin Yao, Ji Ku, and the others. Swoosh! 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 Yin Yao, Ji Ku, Ji Wushuang, White Dragon, Xian Yu, and Black Dragon appeared in the secret room. The secret room was not big to begin with, and it looked a little cramped. Little fox, shrink your body. You're squeezing us. Black Dragon, curl up. Your tail is poking me. White Dragon glared at Qian Yu and Black Dragon, then growled in a low voice. After Qian Yu shrank into a watermelon-sized furball, Black Dragon curled up his body, and the secret room became a little more spacious. White Dragon couldn't wait to ask, "Master, have we left the lightning pool? Where are we?" Yin Yao looked at Ji Tianqing and asked, "Tianqing, did you run into any trouble when you left the lightning pool?" Ji Ku asked, "Brother Tianqing, have you settled down? Which continent are we on?" Ji Tianqing raised his hand to signal for everyone to be quiet. He said calmly, "Don't worry, everyone. Although something happened when I left the lightning pool, I'm safe now." Then, he told everyone what happened after he left the lightning pool. After everyone heard what he said, they felt that it was a close call and started discussing. "I didn't expect the Great Yen Celestial tribe to be so despicable. They actually took the resources of the Ascenders and sent them to the mines to do hard labor. Blue Mountain City's guards are searching for Brother Tianqing everywhere. We're not far from here, and it's dangerous. Old Ji is lucky to have met Zhu Qingcheng and young Master Qi. That's how we settled down in Green Mountain City. Master, how long do you plan to stay in Green Mountain City?" Ji Tianqing said calmly, the heavenly realm now is no longer the heavenly realm of the past. The Azura God King saw through the secrets of the heavens and took the final step to break through to the God Emperor realm. Now, he rules the entire boundless heaven continent and has set strict rules. He even forces the people of the world to worship him regularly and provide him with power of faith. It's clear that he's plotting something. On the boundless heaven continent, all divine nations have a household registration system. Without a household registration card, it's difficult to move around. At any time, you might be captured and sent to the mines to do hard labor. That's why we'll stay in Green Mountain City for a while. At the very least, I have to get you a household registration card so you can have a legal identity. Also, I suspect that the Azura God Emperor is the backer of the Heaven Punishers. No matter if it's old or new, I must settle it with him. I must kill him for revenge. Ji Ku frowned and thought for a moment. Then, he asked doubtfully, Brother Tianqing, we're weak now. Chapter 2783. 2 hours later, everyone finished their discussion. Yin Yao, Ji Ku, and the others hadn't obtained their household registration cards yet, so they couldn't show up for the time being. They returned to the Nine Heavens 10 Absolutes Tower and continued to cultivate in seclusion. Ji Tianqing walked out of the secret room and left the Autumn Orchid Courtyard alone. He strolled in Green Mountain City, secretly observing the city with his divine sense to understand the layout and situation. At the same time, he was also silently collecting all kinds of information. There was information about Green Mountain City, the city lord's mansion, the city guards, and the major families in the city. When night fell, Ji Tianqing returned to the Star Moon Pavilion and entered the Autumn Orchid Courtyard. Through an afternoon of investigation, he collected a lot of useful information. In Green Mountain City, the city lord's mansion was undoubtedly the overlord. The current city lord was a divine lord. Because he rarely acted in the past few hundred years, his realm was unknown. In addition, there were 2 other divine lords in the city lord's mansion. Their strength was between the first and second level, and they were the deputy city lord and the superintendent of the city guards. Second only to the city lord's mansion were the 5 major families. Among them was the Qi family, which was mainly involved in the pet business and had a network of connections in more than 40 cities. The current family head, Qi Tianlong, broke through to the Divine Lord realm 10 years ago. The Qi family was developing rapidly and had strong financial resources. The other 4 major families were all noble families with thousands of years of history. In terms of financial resources, they were naturally inferior to the Qi family, but their backers and forces were more powerful. In addition, Ji Tianqing also found a very important piece of information. 3 days later, a grand event would be held in Green Mountain City. The city lord's mansion took the lead and the 5 major families jointly organized a martial arts competition in the city square. The 6 major forces would each send 2 young geniuses, and the winner would be determined in a martial arts competition under the witness of all the people in the city. The force with the highest ranking would obtain the 10-year use of the Dark Light Cave. This was a grand event that was held once every 10 years, and it attracted the attention and discussion of the entire city. Millions of commoners were discussing this matter in secret, discussing which genius was stronger and had the highest chance of winning. When Ji Tianqing heard this news, he was still a little confused. So, he asked the people and understood the whole story. The cause of this matter had to be explained 70 years ago. 800,000 kilometers to the north of Qingshan City was the Sea of the Setting Sun. 70 years ago, several experts from the Qi family and the Qi family were hunting for mythical beasts in the coastal waters of the Setting Sun Sea region and accidentally discovered a mysterious island. Several experts entered the isolated island and chased after the 2 divine beasts. They unintentionally entered a mysterious cave. As a result, the strength of the 2 divine beasts increased dramatically in the cave, killing and injuring several experts. Only 2 experts were still alive. They hurriedly retreated from the mysterious cave and sent a request for help to their respective families. The experts from the Qi clan and Qi clan rushed to the isolated island and started investigating the mysterious cave. They successfully captured 2 divine beasts and discovered a secret. Inside that mysterious cave, there were not only colorful profound lights, but also incomparably rich divine stones and metal ores. However, there were several powerful divine beasts in the cave, as well as several monarch-grade divine formations of the Sea Beast clan. The Qi family and the Qi family did not have any divine lord experts. After paying a huge price, they were still unable to occupy the cave. Thus, they secretly found the city lord's mansion and asked for help. If they successfully occupied the cave, the 3 forces would divide the divine level stone and divine gold mines equally. However, the 2 divine lords sent by the city lord's mansion also suffered great losses one after another. When the news spread, the other 3 great families also came out in full force and rushed over to help. Hence, the 6 great forces joined forces and each displayed their abilities. They racked their brains and methods before killing the divine beasts in the cave and cracking the divine formations left behind by the Sea Beast clan. After the 6 great forces occupied the mysterious cave, they named it Mystic Light Cave. However, they were unable to come to an agreement on the issue of resource distribution. The various forces put forward various conditions, wanting to obtain more resources and treasures. In the end, the city lord made the final decision. Every 10 years, the 6 great forces would conduct a martial arts competition. Whoever won would be able to control the Mystic Light Cave for 10 years. For the sake of fairness, Divine Lord Realm experts were not allowed to participate. Only young disciples below the Divine Lord Realm and within 1,000 years old were qualified to participate in the martial arts competition. This compromise received the approval of the several great families. But the following 60 years made the 5 great families so depressed that they vomited blood. The city lord's mansion won all 6 martial arts competitions in a row. There was no choice. The city lord's son was seriously too strong. He had long reached the half-step Divine Lord realm. The young disciples of the 5 great families were all defeated under his sword. Hence, the city lord's mansion suppressed all heroes. In these 70 years, it had always been the city lord's mansion occupying the Mystic Light Cave, wantonly extracting the divine stones and resources inside. The 5 great families burned with anxiety when they saw this, jealous until their eyes turned red. But they could not violate the agreement and could only fiercely drill their family disciples. The 5 great families were all looking forward to the next martial arts competition. Their family disciples could defeat the city lord's son and seize back the Mystic Light Cave. In another 3 days' time, it would be the 7th martial arts competition. Ji Tianqing immediately understood. No wonder Qi Huangji was in a bad mood and came out alone to relieve his boredom. Ho. Although Qi Huangji has 9th level celestial deity strength, he's also pulling up seedlings to help them grow, his foundation weak. With his combat strength, facing off against a half-step Divine Lord Realm expert, he'll definitely be defeated in less than 10 moves. Ji Tianqing secretly pondered and had an idea very soon. However, he could not take the initiative for this matter. He had to get Qi Huangji to speak first, then he would seize the opportunity to take action. Only then could the plan go smoothly. Hence, he meditated and cultivated in the hidden chamber, waiting silently. Without his orders, the guards and 2 maids did not dare to disturb him. Before he knew it, a whole day had passed. No one stepped into Chulon courtyard. It was time for the evening lights to be lit again. Ji Tianqing was still cultivating in the hidden chamber, not in a hurry at all. Time passed silently. For hours later, it was late at night. Suddenly, the guard's voice came from outside the hidden chamber. Reporting to young Master Tianqing, an important guest has come to visit. Hearing the guard's report, Ji Tianqing opened his eyes and a smile appeared on his face. He's really here. He did not know anyone in Qingshan City. Other than Qi Huanji, who else would come to visit him? Hence, Ji Tianqing got up and left the hidden chamber, walking toward the living room. As soon as he stepped into the living room, he saw Qi Huanji sitting at the table, looking dejected and depressed. Qi Huanji was holding a wine cup and drinking by himself, while two maids of the Divine Fox clan were massaging his shoulders and legs. Ji Tianqing greeted him with a smile and asked knowingly, "Young Master Qi, what brings you here so late at night?" Qi Huanji gestured for him to sit down and poured him a cup of wine, saying, "The night is long, and I'm not in the mood to sleep. Since I have nothing to do, I came to visit Brother Tianqing and have a drink with you." Ji Tianqing held the wine cup but did not drink. He smiled and said, "Looking at your worried face, you must have something on your mind. I'm curious, what in Qingshan City can make young Master Qi so anxious?" Chapter 2784. Qi Huanji was also an interesting person. If it were anyone else, they wouldn't be close friends with Ji Tianqing, nor would they confide in him. At most, they would say a few perfunctory words and wouldn't tell him the real reason. Of course, most people wouldn't ask Ji Tianqing to stay in Qilan courtyard after meeting him. It was too expensive. Qi Huanji put down his wine cup and stared straight at Ji Tianqing. "Brother Tianqing, do you really want to know the reason?" Ji Tianqing maintained his smile and nodded. Qi Huanji hesitated for a moment, then dismissed the two maids. When only he and Ji Tianqing were left in the living room, he lowered his voice and said, "Brother Tianqing, let me ask you a question first. If your parents love you very much, but they force you to do something impossible, what will you do?" Ji Tianqing said without hesitation, "As long as you dare to think and do it, there's nothing impossible in this world." Qi Huanji was stunned for a moment, then gave him a thumbs up. "Brother Tianqing, you're really an interesting and special person. However, I really can't do it. You know Yuan Jie, right? He's the eldest son of the Qingshan City Lord, our young lord. He was born more than 90 years after me, but he became a half-step divine lord 80 years ago. My father forced me to defeat him, or I would have to marry into the Sky Snow City's Ning family and marry that iceberg Ning Siyuan." Marry into the Sky Snow City's Ning family? Marry that iceberg? Ji Tianqing was stunned for a moment, then couldn't help laughing. "Isn't it funny?" Qi Huanji said with a bitter smile on his face. "Everyone in Qingshan City thinks it's hilarious and absurd. It's so ridiculous, but my parents agreed to it. When I was 10 years old, my father set up a marriage agreement with the Ning family. That iceberg is in my house. My parents treat her like the apple of their eye, but they give me the cold shoulder. I have a home that I can't go back to." After Qi Huanji finished speaking, he poured 3 more cups of wine and drank them all in one gulp. Perhaps he felt that the wine cup was too small to satisfy his craving, so he picked up the wine pot and was about to pour it into his mouth. Ji Tianqing reached out and pressed down on the wine jug. He restrained his smile and asked seriously, "Young Master Qi, getting drunk can solve 1,000 worries, but it can't break your engagement with Miss Ning. Let me ask you, is Ms. Ning's family also in the pet business?" When he asked this question, he thought of the caravan he had encountered when he entered the city gate. That 3-eyed woman in silver armor should be Ning Siyuan. Qi Huanji paused for a moment, then nodded. "Yes. It seems that you haven't been idle for the past 2 days. Have you gone out to gather information?" Ji Tianqing didn't answer. Instead, he asked, "Is Miss Ning's family more powerful than your Qi family?" "Of course." Qi Huanji quickly nodded and explained, "My family is the richest in Green Mountain City, and the Ning family is the richest in Sky Snow City. Qingshan City was a small city in a remote area, while Sky Snow City was a county city, one of the 10 most prosperous main cities of the Blood Flame Divine Country. For example, the Ning family is a resplendent palace, and my family is a shabby thatched hut. My father can't wait to curry favor with the Ning family. How would he dare to break off the engagement? Besides, Ning Siyuan is as cold as an iceberg. She's beautiful, ruthless, and strong. How would I dare to provoke her? Qi Huanji complained again and again, with a pitiful look. Ji Tianqing continued to ask, your father forced you to defeat Yuan Jie because of the Cave of Dark Light, right? Qi Huanji nodded. Yes, it's not a secret. You can ask anyone about it. The martial arts competition will be held in 2 days. Not to mention that I can't beat Yuan Jie, the other 4 young masters will also be beaten to a pulp by Yuan Jie. But Yuan Jie is very arrogant. Every time he beats us, he humiliates us and makes a few cold gestures, making the girls in the city scream. Ji Tianqing could tell that Qi Huanji was prejudiced against Yuan Jie. He thought for a moment and asked, since Miss Ning is engaged to you, then she's your fiancée. Since she came to Qingshan City, she can represent your Qi family in the martial arts competition. I heard that she's also a half-step divine sovereign. She should be able to match Yuan Jie. Qi Huanji stared straight at Ji Tianqing and smiled bitterly. Brother, why are you like my father? Ji Tianqing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Bah, what I mean is. Qi Huanji reacted and quickly corrected himself. Why do you think the same as my parents? Can't I? Ji Tianqing asked. Of course not. Qi Huanji put down his wine cup and explained, although I'm engaged to Ning Siyuan, I'm marrying into her family. I'll be ridiculed by the world. Besides, I don't like her, and she looks down on me. Why would she help me? Besides, the city lord's mansion and the other aristocratic families know that she's the daughter of the Ning family. She won't marry into my Qi family. Even if she wants to participate, the city lord's mansion and the aristocratic families won't agree. I see. Only then did Ji Tianqing understand the situation. He muttered, I thought she came to Qingshan City at this time to help your Qi clan. Qi Huanji waved his hand. You're overthinking. Ji Tianqing asked again, is the Dark Light Cave really that important? Of course. Qi Huanji explained in a firm tone, let me put it this way. Our Qi family's pet business can earn us hundreds of millions of divine stones a year. But 1 year of mining in the Dark Light Cave is equivalent to 20 years of business for my family. No wonder the aristocratic families are jealous. Ji Tianqing nodded to show that he understood. Qi Huanji smiled bitterly. It's useless to be jealous. Yuan Jie is abnormally strong. Ji Tianqing asked again, every aristocratic family can send 2 people to participate in the battle. Your Qi family is so rich. Don't you have other experts? Don't mention it. Qi Huanji shook his head and said, my talent is already the highest in the Qi family, but I forced myself to reach the 9th stage. Ji Tianqing frowned and asked in confusion, only the family's disciples can participate in the battle. Can't they send their family retainers and masters? Qi Huanji was stunned for a moment and nodded. That's possible. However, the participants must meet 2 conditions, under 1,000 years old and under the Divine Lord realm. Those who meet these 2 conditions and can defeat Yuan Jie are definitely geniuses. Why would they come to a small place like Qingshan City? After a moment of silence, Qi Huanji suddenly thought of something and stared at Ji Tianqing with shining eyes. Brother Tianqing, you're asking so many questions. Don't tell me, you want to help me solve my problem? Ji Tianqing thought to himself, we've talked for so long and you only reacted now. Isn't your reaction too slow? He thought so, but he wouldn't say it out loud. He cupped his hands and said with a smile, young Master Qi and I hit it off at first sight and you've taken good care of me. If I can help you with this, I'll do my best. Qi Huanji's eyes lit up as he asked with anticipation, Brother Tianqing, do you meet the conditions to participate in the battle? Of course. Then do you have the confidence to defeat Yuan Jie? Qi Huanji was even more expectant. Ji Tianqing smiled and nodded. Easy as pie. Chapter 2785. Beihai Street, the most prosperous street in the city. The famous Qi Mansion was located at the end of the street. This magnificent mansion occupied an area of nearly 10 miles and could accommodate nearly 10,000 people. Inside the mansion, there was a small lake as bright as a mirror, a lush green hill, and a large garden full of flowers. Even though it was late at night, the Qi Mansion was still brightly lit and filled with people. Just in terms of guards and servants, the Qi family had more than 3,000 people. Only the wealthiest family in Qingshan City, the Qi family, had such wealth. At this moment, in the main hall of the Qi Mansion, Master Qi Tianlong and Mistress Qin Peipei were watching two shadow puppets with a silver-armored woman. The masters who performed the shadow puppets were invited by the Qi family from Tianfeng County at an exorbitant price. In order to please the silver-armored woman, Qi Tianlong and his wife put in a lot of effort. Many elders, deacons, and young disciples of the Qi family were lucky enough to watch the shadow puppets. They were all dazzled and intoxicated. At the head of the table, the burly and dignified Qi Tianlong sat in the main seat. On the surface, he was staring at the shadow puppets in the main hall, but in reality, he was secretly observing the silver-armored woman's reaction. He couldn't help it. The silver-armored woman from the three-eyed godly clan was too honorable. She was Qi Huanji's fiancée, the eldest daughter of the Ning family from Tianxua City, Ning Xiyuan. Mistress Qin Peipei was dressed elegantly and gracefully. She personally sat beside Ning Xiyuan and chatted with her from time to time. However, Ning Xiyuan was not interested in the shadow puppets. Most of the time, she was silent. No one knew what was on her mind. Ever since she came to Qingshan City, she had never left her silver armor. She had a cold attitude that kept people away. Even now, in the main hall of the Qi Mansion, she was still wearing her silver armor and only took off her helmet. She had a fair and delicate face and a pair of deep, icy blue eyes, which added a mysterious and cold temperament to her beautiful face. The young disciples of the Qi family sitting around the main hall couldn't help but glance at her. Many people were jealous and secretly sighed. Just how capable was the young master, Qi Huanji, to be able to set up an engagement with such a proud daughter of heaven? What a beautiful and noble woman! Her status was noble, and her talent and strength were superior to those of her generation. She was simply a goddess in the hearts of countless men. Even if he married into the Ning family and became a laughingstock, it was still worth it. Unfortunately, Qi Huanji did not know how to appreciate his good fortune and actually rejected this marriage. He simply did not know what was good for him and was recklessly wasting God's gift. Not long after, the two shadow puppets finished, and the masters left the stage. The elders, deacons, and disciples of the Qi family also bowed and left. Only Qi Tianlong, Qin Peipei, and Ning Xiyuan were left in the brightly lit hall. Qi Tianlong nodded to Ning Xiyuan and asked kindly, "Miss Xiyuan, tonight several masters performed God Emperor Evil and Ding 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 the World. When I saw it, my heart was stirred and I felt great respect for it. What do you think?" Ning Xiyuan nodded calmly and said, "It's all right." Her voice was clear and melodious, like a silver bell, very pleasant to listen to. Qi Tianlong was startled and a little embarrassed. Obviously, Ning Xiyuan was not very interested in this. Qin Peipei hurriedly smoothed things over and said with a smile, "Master, Xiyuan is a heroine, a heroine. She usually puts her mind on the family business and cultivation. Why would she care about these small tricks?" She took Ning Xiyuan's hand and explained, "Xiyuan, we were afraid that you would feel bored and unhappy staying in the Qi family, so we invited the masters to perform for you to relieve your boredom." Ning Xiyuan nodded politely and said calmly, "I've troubled uncle and auntie." Qi Tianlong quickly waved his hand and said, "Miss Xiyuan, you're too polite. Back then, your father and I were friends who went through life and death together. Not only are you the daughter-in-law of the Qi family, but you're also my precious daughter in my heart. Qi Tianlong's words were half true and half false. Ning Xiyuan was obviously not good at pleasantries. She just nodded and did not say anything else. Qin Peipei held her hand and said, Xiyuan, it's late now. Auntie will send you back to rest. Ning Xiyuan quickly shook her head. Xiyuan is a junior. How could I trouble Auntie to send me back? Qin Peipei smiled and quickly ordered the maids to bring Ning Xiyuan back to rest. Ning Xiyuan walked to the door of the main hall and suddenly stopped. She turned her head and asked, Oh right, why didn't Huanji show up tonight? I've been in the Qi family for 2 days, and he only greeted me twice. I didn't see him at all. If he doesn't want to see me, I'll leave tomorrow. Before Ning Xiyuan could finish, Qi Tianlong quickly interrupted and explained, Miss Xiyuan, you've misunderstood. Huanji misses you day and night and has deep feelings for you. How could he avoid meeting you? He's busy and has no time to leave. You also know that the martial arts competition is the day after tomorrow. He's busy with it. Qin Peipei quickly nodded in agreement to help Qi Huanji. Ning Xiyuan would not be fooled. She frowned slightly and said, Huanji is no match for the young master. No matter how busy he is these days, it's useless. I heard that he has a wide circle of friends and has won over a group of strange people from all over the world. He often takes them to drink and have fun. She was obviously saying that Qi Huanji did not return home in the middle of the night and went out to fool around again. Qi Tianlong and Qin Peipei were both very embarrassed. They were angry and wanted to beat Qi Huanji up right now. But the most important thing now was to clear Qi Huanji's name. How could they let Ning Xiyuan misunderstand? Qin Peipei quickly explained, Xiyuan, these are all rumors from the idle people in the city. Don't take them seriously. Huanji is a little slow, playful, and undisciplined, but he's not a bad person. But his character is not bad. He is definitely not a frivolous playboy who indulges in wine and women. Yes. Ning Xiyuan nodded slightly and said indifferently, it's best that he's not. Otherwise, he'll be criticized when he joins the Ning family. Before she could finish, hurried footsteps suddenly came from outside the hall. Father. Mother. I have an idea. Qi Huanji's joyful voice could be heard from afar even when they were still 1,000 feet away. Qi Tianlong, Qin Peipei, Ning Xiyuan, and the 2 maids immediately looked up at the entrance of the hall. Under everyone's gaze, Qi Huanji, whose face was flushed and slightly tipsy, walked quickly to the entrance of the hall. Behind him was a burly young man in a white robe from the divine clan. Obviously, it was Ji Tianqing. The 2 of them were discussing in the Moonstar Pavilion. Ji Tianqing said that he could defeat Yuan Jie. Qi Huanji could not wait to drag him back to the Qi residence to tell his parents the good news. However, when he stepped into the hall with Ji Tianqing, he found that his parents' expressions were strange. Ning Xiyuan's eyes were also a little cold. Chapter 2786. The hall fell into a brief silence. Qi Tianlong was the first to speak, breaking the silence. Huanji, you were busy until late at night and couldn't accompany Miss Xiyuan. Why aren't you apologizing? Qi Huanji came to his senses and hurriedly bowed to Ning Xiyuan. Miss Xiyuan, please forgive me for not being a good host. Ning Xiyuan looked at him indifferently and said calmly, Young Master Qi, you're too polite. I'm glad I didn't interrupt your drinking. Qi Huanji was stunned. Qi Tianlong and Qin Peipei felt even more awkward, but they couldn't explain anything. It seemed that this misunderstanding couldn't be resolved. Ji Tianqing didn't say anything and secretly sized up Ning Xiyuan. Just as he guessed, the silver-armored woman he met outside the city gate was Qi Huanji's fiancée. Qi Tianlong glared at Qi Huangji and shouted coldly, "You bastard, instead of coming home late at night, you're drinking yourself into a stupor outside. What are you doing? Go kneel in the ancestral hall now and apologize to Miss Siyuan when you're sober." Qi Tianlong was furious, and his divine lord aura swept toward Qi Huangji. He hated Qi Huangji for not living up to his expectations, but he also did it to appease Ning Siyuan's anger. After all, they were still trying to clear Qi Huangji's name. They didn't expect to be slapped in the face in the blink of an eye. Huh? Qi Huangji was stunned. He asked unwillingly, "Father, why are you punishing me again? I didn't do anything wrong. I only came back now because I was busy. Look, this is young Master Qianqing. He's the helper I found." Qi Huangji pointed sideways at Ji Qianqing as he spoke. Qi Tianlong, his wife, and Ning Siyuan immediately looked at Ji Qianqing. "It's him," Ning Siyuan muttered when she saw Ji Qianqing's face and remembered what happened outside the city gate. But she didn't say anything and looked coldly at Ji Qianqing. Qi Tianlong was enraged again and scolded sternly, "You bastard! How many times have I told you, don't bring those riffraff back home? What kind of people are they? They're just a bunch of swindlers and good-for-nothings." In the past, Qi of the family to the point that he had even built a special courtyard for them. For him. However, most of those strange people were scammers and scoundrels who only knew how to eat and drink. They had caused a lot of trouble for the Qi family. Naturally, Qi Tianlong hated Ji Tianxing. He pointed at him and ordered, "Men, drag this scoundrel out. TSTS. Qi Huangji quickly spread out his arms and shielded Ji Tianqing behind him. He straightened his neck and said to Qi Tianlong, "Hold on. Father, this young Master Tianheng is different. I swear on my life that he's different from those dudes. He's trustworthy." Qi Tianlong was even more furious when he saw how much Qi Tianlong trusted Ji Tianqing. He scolded, "You bastard! Are you drunk? How could you be fooled by this person?" The martial arts competition concerns the fate of the Qi family. What can a swindler like him do? "You unfilial son! I'm going to beat you up tonight." Qi Tianlong took out a Zidian whip and was about to teach Qi Tianji a lesson. He was furious and also wanted to save the Qi family's face. He didn't want Ning Siyuan to despise him. After all, the Ning family didn't see how Qi Tianji fooled around in the past. But tonight was different. Ning Siyuan saw it with her own eyes. Who knew what she would think? She would probably treat Qi Tianji as a retard. Slap! Qi Tianlong flicked his purple lightning whip and lashed out at Qi Huangji with a series of purple lightning arcs. Qi Tianji stood still and shouted stubbornly, "Father! I didn't do anything wrong." Qin Peipei was anxious. She pulled Qi Tianlong aside and pleaded for her son. "Master, please calm down." However, she was only a level 8 heaven god. How could she stop the furious Qi Tianlong? Ning Siyuan stood at the side and watched everything coldly with an indifferent expression. The purple electric arc was about to hit Qi Tianji. His skin and flesh would be torn apart and his body would be charred black. At this moment, Ji Tianqing, who had been silent all this time, suddenly stepped forward and stood in front of Qi Tianji. Looking at the incoming purple lightning whip, he calmly stretched out his right hand and opened his 5 fingers to grab it. Bang! There was a muffled sound. The purple electric arc that lit up the hall was instantly extinguished. Ji Tianqing also grabbed Qi Tianlong's Zidian whip. No matter how the whip flickered, he was not affected at all. He held the Zidian whip without moving. The noisy hall suddenly quieted down. Qi Tianlong and Qin Peipei widened their eyes and stared at Ji Tianqing in disbelief. Ning Siyuan, who was watching coldly from the sidelines, also raised his eyebrows slightly in surprise. Ji Tianqing looked straight at Qi Tianlong and said calmly, Patriarch Qi, you're a family. If there's anything, you should sit down and talk. Don't disturb our esteemed guest. Qi Tianlong's anger dissipated and he immediately calmed down. He glanced at Ning Xiyuan and then looked deeply at Ji Tianqing. Only then did he put away the Zijian whip. No matter how angry he was, he knew that Ji Tianqing was right. Even if he killed Qi Tianji, it would not change anything. Instead, it would make Ning Xiyuan look down on the Qi family even more. Qi Tianji came to his senses and secretly gave Ji Tianqing a thumbs up. Then, he stared at Qi Tianlong and said happily, Father, do you see it now? Young Master Tianqing can catch your Zijian whip. It shows that he is extraordinary. He can definitely help us. Qi Tianlong sneered disdainfully and did not bother to explain. Ning Xiyuan said calmly, Young Master Qi, you are Uncle Qi's son. How could he really hit you? He only used 20% of his strength. What she meant was that Qi Tianlong was acting and she could see through it. Qi Tianlong was ashamed and angry, but he could not defend himself. Qin Peipei quickly mediated and asked, Huanji, how can this young master help us? Qi Huanji smiled confidently and said, We invite young Master Tianqing to represent the Qi family in the martial arts competition. Nonsense. Qi Tianlong was furious again and scolded sternly, He is so young and he is not even a divine emperor. How can he be our young master? The martial arts competition is of great importance and the lifeline of the Qi family. How can we treat it like a game? It was true that the governor's mansion and the aristocratic families all wanted to hire a young master. However, only a divine emperor could be a young master to protect the family at critical times. However, a divine emperor was an overlord. How could they be a young master? Even if someone was willing to be a young master, they would have to pay a high price and profit. Therefore, the 5 aristocratic families in the city could not find a suitable young master. Qi Huanji smiled and said, Father, are you old and confused? If young Master Tianqing is a divine emperor, can he still participate in the martial arts competition? You unfilial son. Qi Tianlong was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He could not help but slap him again. Chapter 2787. Qin Peipei hurriedly patted Qi Tianlong's chest, persuading him to calm down. Ning Xiyuan didn't say a word, secretly releasing her divine sense and secret technique to probe Ji Tianqing's background. However, she couldn't see through Ji Tianqing at all. Everything in front of her was white. Not only could she not see through Ji Tianqing's strength, but she also couldn't see through his true identity. Qi Huanji took the opportunity to persuade Qi Tianlong, Father, the 5 great families have lost for 60 years anyway, and no one is Yuan Jie's match. If nothing unexpected happens, we will lose again the day after tomorrow. Trust your son this time and give young Master Tianqing a chance. I believe that he can definitely defeat Yuan Jie and help us win the profound light cave. Humph. Qi Tianlong coldly snorted and said with a cold face, You don't have to worry about this matter. I have already contacted Blood Sword Sect's Deacon Yi, and he will help us solve this matter. Calculating the time, Deacon Yi would arrive before noon tomorrow. Give your friend 100,000 divine stones and let him leave the Qi family. Qi Tianlong waved his hand and ordered him to leave on the spot. Qi Huanji immediately became anxious and hurriedly shouted, Father. How can you do this? Not only are you humiliating my friend, but you are also humiliating me. Qi Tianlong left with Qin Peipei, and when he passed by him, he sneered, You good-for-nothing thing, are you worthy of being humiliated by your father? Qi Huanji's vision darkened, and his heart ached like a knife. After a while, Qi Tianlong and his wife left. Ning Xiyuan took a deep look at Ji Tianqing before leaving with her 2 maids. At the entrance of the hall, only Qi Huanji and Ji Tianqing were left. Ji Tianqing patted him on the shoulder and said, "Let's go back to the Star Moon Pavilion first." "No." Qi Huangji shook his head and said stubbornly, "If I really let you go to the Star Moon Pavilion, wouldn't I be fulfilling my father's wishes? He wants you to leave, so I must make you stay. Let's go to the mystical scholar courtyard." Then, without waiting for Ji Tianqing's agreement, he pulled him and flew to the backyard. The backyard was a garden with a radius of 3,000 feet. There was a small hill, a small lake, and a forest of pine and bamboo. The eccentric scholar's courtyard was at the back of the garden. This was the most remote place in the Qi residence. Normally, the Qi family's disciples and servants would not dare to approach this place. The front courtyard of the Qi mansion was brightly lit, but the mystical courtyard only had a few lonely lamps, making it seem very dark and quiet. This residence was rather large, with a radius of at least 1,000 feet. In the middle was the main hall, and on both sides were more than 30 guest rooms, all of which were equipped with secret rooms. Qi Huangji led Ji Tianqing into the main hall and sat down in the reception hall. The guard at the door hurriedly went to make tea. At this moment, a dark-skinned old man with unkempt hair and greasy clothes rushed into the living room and shouted excitedly, "Young Master Qi, you're finally back. Quick! Come with me, I have a new invention." As he spoke, the dark and skinny old man pulled Qi Huangji away. Ji Tianqing took a closer look. This old man looked like a chimpanzee, and his hair was as messy as a chicken's nest. He was wearing a high-quality blue robe woven with gold, but it had not been changed for several years. A thick layer of mud had formed on it. Without a doubt, this was one of the eccentrics that Qi Huangji had recruited. Ji Tianqing suddenly understood why Qi Tianlong was furious and hated eccentrics so much. The old man was in high spirits, but Qi Huangji broke free from his claws and asked with a frown, "Old Black, you've been in seclusion for 2.5 years. What have you come up with this time?" The old man excitedly showed off his achievements and said proudly, "I've improved the design of the previous heavenly secret umbrella. Now, not only can it teleport thousands of miles, it can also release 3 types of divine abilities and 9 types of hidden weapons. Its lethality has increased exponentially. The most exciting thing is that I've added a space inside that can store a huge amount of delicacies and divine wine." Qi Huangji was a little surprised. "What's the use of that?" The old man said anxiously, "How is it useless? Think about it, you'll use the heavenly secret umbrella to kill your enemies and make them piss their pants, kneel down and beg for mercy. At that time, you'll be able to put out a table full of delicacies and divine wine with just a thought. While eating and drinking, you'll watch your enemies piss their pants. Bah, watch your enemies kneel down and beg for mercy. Think about it, how majestic and ostentatious that scene is. Isn't this very much in line with the style of young Master Qi? Let your glorious image be remembered by your enemies forever." Qi Huangji did not know whether to laugh or cry. He nodded reluctantly and said, "Yes, what you said makes sense." "Then what are you waiting for? Come with me to admire it." The old man was encouraged and could not wait to pull him out of the living room. Qi Huangji hurriedly waved his hand and comforted him. "Old Black, I have important things to do. You go and study it first and perfect it." He tried his best to appease the old man. Unexpectedly, as soon as the old black devil left, another strong man with red scales all over his body stepped into the living room with a giant sword. "Young Master Qi, I've been waiting for you for a long time. When you begged me to stay in the Qi family, it was because of the once-in-a-decade martial arts competition. I've been cultivating in seclusion for the past 10 years, and I've finally mastered the red wave swordsmanship. Now, please admire my peerless swordsmanship." The strong man was more than 10 feet tall. He had a huge head and a big mouth. His limbs were sharp claws, and he had a big tail behind him. He looked a little like a crocodile, but he was related to the dragon race by blood. This was the warrior of the crocodile dragon race. He was violent and warlike by nature. He was just speaking normally, but his voice was too loud. It was like a bell, shaking the living room. Red Crocodile, you've mastered the swordsmanship. Qi Huangji stood up in surprise and looked at the red crocodile with shining eyes. However, he soon came to his senses and glanced at Ji Tianqing with a guilty look. It felt like a man meeting his first wife, but there was a mistress by his side. The red crocodile's eyes also fell on Ji Tianqing. He looked at him maliciously and asked, "Young Master Qi, who is this guy? Don't tell me he's a whore you brought back from drinking outside." Qi Huangji was confused. Ji Tianqing did not want to meddle in other people's business. However, when he heard the words, "whore friend," his eyes turned gloomy. "I'm young Master Qi's friend. I'm here to participate in the martial arts competition on behalf of the Qi family," he said in a deep voice. The red crocodile squinted his eyes. His blood-red eyes were burning with a strong desire to fight. "Ha ha ha. You pretty boy, how dare you lie to young Master Qi with your drunken look? How did you defeat Yuan Jie? With your face? Or offer your ass to Yuan Jie?" Ji Tianqing smiled and raised his right hand. He said coldly, "With my fist." As soon as he finished speaking, he clenched his right hand into a fist and punched the red crocodile with a golden fist. The red crocodile's expression changed. He instinctively held his giant sword in front of his chest. Bam! A muffled sound was heard. The red crocodile was sent flying. He crashed into a wall and fell into the small lake in the garden, creating a huge splash. Chapter 2788. Boom! A dull sound echoed in the sky above the Qi mansion. The entire eccentric scholar's courtyard and flower garden shook violently. Red Crocodile flew out of the small lake with his giant sword. Swoosh! He landed in the mystical courtyard, his feet cracking the green mound stones on the ground, and his whole body was bursting with bloody flames. However, blood kept flowing out of his mouth and nose, and his body was trembling. It was obvious that he had suffered internal injuries. "Bastard! Come out if you have the guts, I will skin you alive." Red Crocodile was furious, and his voice was as loud as a bell. As soon as he finished speaking, a white shadow flew in from the hall. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. 9 dazzling golden sword lights, along with the 5-colored divine thunder, stabbed at Red Crocodile. Red Crocodile did not dare to let his guard down. He held the giant sword with both hands and used the red wave sword technique. Swoosh! Suddenly, he turned into a bloody fire whirlwind, and instantly slashed out hundreds of flame waves. Bang 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 bang! The dazzling golden sword light and the flame waves collided, and a deafening sound burst out, shaking the mystical courtyard. The ground and the surrounding houses were immediately shattered into dust by the shock wave, leaving pits all over the ground. In the next moment, the flame waves shattered, and a bloody light burst into the sky. Red Crocodile, who was as strong as an iron tower, also fell into the ruins with blood splattering all over his body. His red wave sword technique was broken, and he was hit by 9 swords, and his limbs were almost cut off. There was also a bloody hole in his chest, and blood flowed out. Bang! Ji Tianqing descended from the sky, stepped on Red Crocodile's back, and pressed his head into the soil. Ong! Red Crocodile was furious, and he roared hysterically, struggling desperately. However, Ji Tianqing did not move, and he was suppressed to the point that he could not move. The battle was over. The destructive shockwave also gradually dissipated. Fortunately, the mystical courtyard was protected by a monarch-level divine array. The shock wave from the 2 of them only destroyed the houses on the ground, and did not affect the outside of the courtyard. Qi Huangji stood in the ruins, looking at this scene in shock, and his eyes were shining with excitement. Young Master Tianqing. Aren't you too valiant? He couldn't see through Ji Tianqing's cultivation. After 2 days of contact, he guessed that Ji Tianqing's strength was not ordinary. However, he had never expected Ji Tianqing to be so powerful. This was simply inconceivable. What a surprise! Qi Huanji was shocked and overjoyed. He knew that he had not made a mistake this time. He had placed his bet on the right person. The Scarlet Crocodile was an expert he had recruited 9 years ago. It was bloodthirsty, violent, and had outstanding combat strength. He was at the same cultivation level as the Red Crocodile, so he had fought with it before. In the end, the two people only exchanged 30 moves and he was defeated by the Crimson Crocodile. Qi Huanji saw hope and thought that Red Crocodile had a chance to defeat Yuan Jie, so he spent a lot of money to recruit him. In these 9 years, he provided abundant cultivation resources for the Scarlet Crocodile and paid a considerable price. From the looks of it now, it was all a waste. Qi Huanji flew to Ji Tianqing's side and said joyfully, "Brother Tianqing, you've really hidden your strength well. I'm afraid only you can defeat Yuan Jie." Ji Tianqing nodded slightly and pointed at the Scarlet Crocodile under his feet. He asked, "How do you plan to deal with this crocodile dragon?" Qi Huanji thought for a moment and cupped his hands at the Scarlet Crocodile. He said, "Brother Scarlet Crocodile, although you can't help me, I've treated you well these 9 years. After tonight, we're even. You can leave." After saying that, he took out a jade bottle and handed it to the Scarlet Crocodile. "Brother Scarlet Crocodile, there are 2 monarch-grade divine pellets in here. They can be used to heal your injuries." 2 monarch-grade divine pellets were worth a few million divine stones. Ji Tianqing saw Qi Huanji's actions and couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Luckily, the Qi family is rich enough. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to withstand such a prodigal. Of course, this was Qi Huanji's matter. He wouldn't interfere. He lifted his right foot and let the Scarlet Crocodile go. The Scarlet Crocodile quickly got up and took Qi Huanji's medicine bottle. He grinned coldly and said, "Young Master Qi, since you don't need me, then I'll take my leave." After saying that, he glared at Ji Tianqing with resentment and said in a deep voice, "Kid, I'll remember you." He enjoyed the treatment of a consecrator in the Qi family and didn't have to worry about cultivation resources. His days were very carefree. But tonight, Ji Tianqing ruined his beautiful life. Cutting off one's path to wealth was like killing one's parents. This enmity was formed. Ji Tianqing glanced at him and couldn't be bothered to pay attention. The Scarlet Crocodile carried the giant sword and left the mystical scholar courtyard dejectedly. Soon, he disappeared into the night. Qi Huanji was still immersed in joy. He was so excited that he couldn't extricate himself. Ji Tianqing pointed at the ruins and said, "I'm sorry for destroying your mystical scholar courtyard." "It's fine, it's fine." Qi Huanji waved his hand and said indifferently, "I'll get the craftsman to repair it later. It will be completed in 2 days. This loss is nothing. To be able to get Brother Tianqing's help, even if I have to destroy 100 mystical scholar courtyards, I'm willing." Ji Tianqing smiled and said, "But we don't have a place to stay tonight." This. Qi Huanji scratched his head and said, "Why don't we go back to the Star Moon Pavilion?" "Okay." Ji Tianqing nodded in agreement. 15 minutes later. The two returned to the Star Moon Pavilion and entered Qilan Courtyard. Qi Huanji was in a good mood. He asked 2 maids to bring wine and dishes and wanted to drink with Ji Tianqing again. Ji Tianqing pressed down on the wine pot and asked seriously, "Young Master Qi, what's the blood sword sect that your father mentioned?" Qi Huanji was stunned. He quickly put down the wine cup and said with a serious expression, "The blood sword sect is one of the 6 great sects of the Blood Flame Divine Country. Not to mention Azure Mountain City. In Azure Mountain City, even Tianfeng City has to be respectful to the blood sword sect. The Blood Sword sect has 9 divine monarchs, and the sect master's strength can be ranked in the top 10 of the Blood Flame divine country. Anyone who can obtain the protection of the Blood Sword sect will not only have a prosperous business, but their status will also rise. Ji Tianqing roughly understood. Your father said that Deacon Yi will arrive before noon tomorrow. Did your father ask Deacon Yi for help and make some kind of deal? N. Qi Huanji nodded and said, my father did business in Tianfeng City and cooperated with Deacon Yi twice, so we have some friendship. My father was forced to seek Deacon Ye's help this time. He is a divine monarch and has a high status in the Blood Sword sect, second only to the elders. Ji Tianqing frowned and said, divine monarchs can't participate in the martial competition. Of course it won't be Deacon Yi. Qi Huanji waved his hand and said, I think Deacon Yi will bring a genius disciple and pretend to be a branch disciple of our Qi family. However, I don't think there's much hope. No matter how outstanding the Blood Sword sect's disciple is, he might not be Yuan Jie's opponent. Besides, the Blood Sword sect is a force that eats people without spitting out the bones. They won't help us for no reason. I'm worried that Deacon Yi will take advantage of my father again. Chapter 2789. Ji Tianqing could tell. Qi Huanji was sometimes muddle-headed and absurd, but sometimes righteous and generous. In fact, he was sometimes childish and stubborn. Regardless, Qi Huanji was no fool. He did not have high hopes for Deacon Yi, who was coming tomorrow. Don't worry, Brother Tianqing. I'll explain the situation to my father and invite you to participate in the martial competition as a venerate. We'll try not to use the Blood Sword sect as much as possible. My father isn't muddle-headed. He should understand. Ji Tianqing smiled and said, young Master Qi, you worry too much. I'm only willing to help you because you're forthright and righteous. I don't care if you're a venerate or not. Hey, Brother Tianqing, don't say that. Qi Huanji hurriedly waved his hand and said, I've decided to invite you to be a venerate of the Qi family, and I won't change my mind. Only then can we justify it and shut the mouths of the other aristocratic families. Moreover, you've helped us take back Mystic Light Cave. That's a huge favor. No matter what requests or difficulties you have, as long as the Qi family can do it, we'll do it. Ji Tianqing smiled and said, it's still too early to talk about this. Let's talk about it after the matter is settled. Hence, the two of them chatted for a while more before they went to rest. The next day, Qi Huanji only woke up late in the morning and asked Ji Tianqing to go to the Qi family with him. Ji Tianqing declined, saying that it was inconvenient for him to show up for the time being and that he would wait for news in the Star Moon Pavilion. Qi Huanji guessed that it had something to do with the Blood Sword sect and did not insist. He left the Star Moon Pavilion alone and rushed back to the Qi residence. Qi Huanji returned to the Qi residence. As soon as he entered the courtyard, he saw 2 house-sized fire sparrows standing in the courtyard. He knew at a glance that they were the mounts of the Blood Sword sect. As expected. In the conference hall of the main hall, Qi Tianlong was entertaining 2 distinguished guests. Qin Peipei and Ning Xiyuan were not in the hall. The 2 guests from the Blood Sword sect were led by a thin man in a black robe with a mustache that resembled the character 8. This person was a member of the Great Yen Divine Clan. His face was thin, and his eyes were sharp and bright. He gave off a sinister aura. Qi Huanji could tell that this person was Deacon Yi. The other guest was a handsome young man from the Great Yen Divine Clan who was nearly 10 feet tall. This person wore a fiery red robe, and his purple hair was tied into a ponytail. There was a green divine jade belt around his waist, and he looked very free and easy. Of course, this handsome red-robed youth was extremely cold and arrogant. He held a purple divine sword in his arms and sat on a chair with his eyes closed. He ignored Qi Tianlong and wanted to turn his nose up at the sky. Qi Huangji sized him up and saw that he was a half-step divine monarch, so he understood his identity. A genius disciple of the Blood Sword sect. At this moment, Qi Tianlong saw Qi Anji outside the hall and shouted, "Anji, come and greet Uncle Yi and senior brother Mu." Qi Huangji was displeased, but he could only force himself to enter the main hall and bow. Nephew Qi Huangji greets Uncle Yi. Deacon Yi stroked his mustache and nodded at him without saying anything. Qi Huangji bowed at the red-robed youth. Huangji greets senior brother Mu. The red-robed youth still had his eyes closed and did not respond. He ignored Qi Huangji. The atmosphere was slightly awkward, but Qi Tianlong could not be too harsh. Deacon Yi smiled and explained, "Mu Yi is the fourth elder's last disciple and one of the 5 most outstanding geniuses in the sect. He was born like this, and the elders can't do anything about it. Please don't blame him, Patriarch Qi." In other words, Mu Yi was a genius of the sect and was used to being arrogant. It was normal for him to ignore them. Qi Tianlong smiled and said, "It's normal for a young genius to be arrogant." Then, he looked at Qi Huangji and said, "Huangji, Father and Deacon Yi are discussing important matters. Sit down and listen." Qi Huangji nodded in agreement and took a seat at the head of the table. At this moment, Deacon Yi said, "Patriarch Qi, let's continue our conversation. This is Mu Ye's first time in Azure Mountain City, so you can rest assured that the other aristocratic families won't see through his identity. Moreover, even if the 4 aristocratic families and the city lord's mansion find out Mu Ye's identity, they won't dare to become enemies with our Blood Sword sect. Mu Ye's true strength is stronger than Yuan Jie's, so he will definitely help the Qi family take back the profound light cave." Qi Tianlong was overjoyed. Without any worries, he quickly nodded and said, "That's good. 70 years ago, it was our Qi family and the Qi family who discovered the profound light cave. Who would have thought that the city lord's mansion would benefit from it and mine it for 70 years? This time, the Qi family must take back the profound light cave that originally belonged to us." Deacon Yi stroked his beard and said with a smile, "Since this matter will definitely succeed, let's talk about the price. After this matter is done, the Qi family will be responsible for mining the profound light cave, but we want 70% of the divine stones and resources produced every year. Moreover, the Qi family must pledge allegiance to our sect and work for us." Qi Tianlong and Qi Huangji's expressions immediately changed. One had a solemn expression, while the other was angry. Qi Tianlong coughed lightly and squeezed out a smile, saying, "Deacon Yi, isn't this condition a bit too harsh? Our Qi family will be responsible for mining and will need a lot of manpower and resources, but we can only get 30%. As for pledging allegiance to the Blood Sword sect, this matter can be discussed later. What do you think?" Deacon Yi smiled and shook his head, saying, "Our sect has a large business and tens of thousands of disciples to support. We must take 70%. This is also the opinion of the elders. There's no room for discussion. Moreover, after the Qi family pledges allegiance to our sect, you will receive our protection and your business will be even more prosperous in the future." Qi Tianlong's face sank. He was well aware that the Blood Sword sect was taking advantage of the situation. Moreover, once the Qi family pledged allegiance to the Blood Sword sect, they would become the Blood Sword sect's bank and servant. The Blood Sword sect would have to give them money and manpower whenever they wanted. With the protection of the Blood Sword sect, the Qi family's business would indeed rise to another level. However, no matter how much money the Qi family earned, it would still be to serve the Blood Sword sect. After a moment of silence, Qi Tianlong probed, "Deacon Yi, can you take a step back for the sake of our friendship? Why don't we split it 50-50? Deacon Yi raised his eyebrows and sneered playfully, "Patriarch Qi, I'm afraid you won't be able to achieve great things with such indecisiveness. I won't hide it from you. Not only did your Qi family contact me, but the Qi family and Lu family also invited me to be a guest. If you don't want to seize this opportunity, then I can only take my leave and make a trip to the Qi family and Lu family. Patriarch Qi, for the sake of our past relationship, I'll give you 10 breaths of time to consider. Qi Tianlong's expression changed, and a deep hatred flashed in his eyes. He didn't expect that the other two families would also contact Deacon Yi. This was troublesome. Before he could say anything, the furious Qi Huangji couldn't hold back and coldly shouted, "Deacon Yi, you're looting a burning house. You've gone too far. Won't your shameless actions tarnish the reputation of the Blood Sword sect?" Mu Yi, who had been resting with his eyes closed, suddenly opened them. He coldly glanced at Qi Huangji and sneered, "A frog at the bottom of a well dares to criticize a deacon of our sect? Trash, I'll make you kneel and beg for mercy on the stage tomorrow." Chapter 2790. The moment Qi Huangji opened his mouth, it meant that the negotiation between the two sides had failed. Mu Yi said ruthlessly, got up and left with the divine sword in his arms. Deacon Yi was too lazy to bow and say goodbye. He waved his sleeves and left the main hall. Qi Tianlong was unwilling to give up. He wanted to catch up with Deacon Yi and ask him to make an exception. But Qi Huangji was full of vigor and pulled him back. Deacon Yi also swaggered away without any intention of stopping. After a while, Deacon Yi and Mu Yi left the Qi family. In the meeting hall, only Qi Tianlong and his son were left. This time, Qi Tianlong was not angry, nor did he scold Qi Huangji. Like a deflated ball, he fell into a chair with a dejected look and looked at Qi Huangji with dim eyes. "Forget it. Our Qi family doesn't have that kind of life, and we can't keep the great wealth of the mysterious light cave. Anyway, in the past 70 years, we didn't get the mysterious light cave." Seeing his father's look of despair, Qi Huangji quickly persuaded, "Father, don't be discouraged, I still have a way." Without waiting for him to finish, Qi Tianlong continued, "Huangji, although you act absurdly, you still have the courage of the Qi family. Father is comforted. Go and prepare for tomorrow's martial arts competition. Even if we can't beat them, we have to fight on the stage. Even if we lose, we have to try our best to be dignified." Qi Huangji didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He quickly comforted, "Father, don't say that. We still have hope. I'll ask young Master Tianqing to come over right away. Let's plan this matter well." Qi Tianlong suddenly frowned and shouted in a deep voice, "That boy last night. Didn't I ask you to give him 100,000 god stones and send him away?" "Father." Qi Huangji shouted with a solemn face and said righteously, "Can't you trust me this once? Just this once? Do you still remember the red crocodile I recruited 9 years ago?" Qi Tianlong saw his son's solemn expression, sat up straight and nodded, "Of course I remember. That red crocodile's combat strength is good, much stronger than yours. But it's hopeless to count on him to deal with Yuan Jie." Qi Huangji revealed a proud smile and said confidently, "Last night, young Master Tianqing exchanged 2 blows with him and destroyed the entire mystical scholars' courtyard. Yes, that foul place, it's good that it's destroyed." Qi Tianlong nodded happily. Qi Huangji was speechless and his face darkened. However, this was not the main point. He was too lazy to waste his breath on his father and continued, "Father, what do you think the result is? The red crocodile won?" Qi Tianlong raised his eyebrows and asked. "No." Qi Huangji quickly shook his head and held up 2 fingers. He laughed and said, "Child Tianqing has won. Furthermore, he only used 2 moves and severely injured the scarlet crocodile." Qi Tianlong's body stiffened. His eyes widened in disbelief. That kid only used 2 moves to defeat the crimson crocodile? Of course. Qi Huangji nodded excitedly and added, "I saw it with my own eyes." Qi Tianlong fell silent. After frowning and pondering for a moment, he nodded slightly and said, since that's the case, that kid does have some ability. Although he may not be able to defeat Yuan Jie and Mu Yi, it's not hopeless. Qi Huangji patted his chest and said, Father, I can guarantee that Yuan Jie and Mu Yi are no match for him. Don't be so sure. Qi Tianlong glanced at him and said in a deep voice, I can trust you this time and allow that kid to participate in the battle for the Qi family. However, you have to ask him what his conditions are first. Qi Huangji replied without hesitation, he will be our Qi family's consecrator. Qi Tianlong frowned and slammed his palm on the table. He scolded, nonsense. What right does a kid have to be our Qi family's consecrator? There's no room for discussion. At most, we will give him 20 million god stones. If he succeeds and helps the Qi family win the Dark Light Cave, we will reward him with another 100 million god stones. Qi Huangji fell silent and stared at Qi Tianlong with a strange expression. Qi Tianlong looked up and found that his son's eyes were full of contempt and disdain. He flew into a rage and shouted, Unfilial son, what is the meaning of this? Qi Huangji sneered and shook his head, Deacon Yi is so arrogant. He wants 70% of the Dark Light Cave's output and wants our Qi family to be the blood sword sect's lackey. You actually want to consider and negotiate with him for such despicable and shameless conditions? And now, young Master Tianqing can help us win the Dark Light Cave, but you are so stingy. 20 million god stones. Are you trying to dismiss a beggar? Qi Tianlong, I used to be proud of you. But now, ha ha ha. Qi Huangji sneered contemptuously and turned to leave. This was the first time in his life that he had called his father by his name and humiliated his father to his face. Qi Tianlong was stunned on the spot and stared at him in disbelief. After coming back to his senses, Qi Tianlong flew into a rage. His face was ashen and he almost drew his sword. Unfilial son. You unfilial son. However, after roaring twice, Qi Tianlong gradually calmed down. Qi Huangji. Stop right there. He suddenly stood up and shouted in a dignified tone. Qi Huangji stopped in his tracks, turned around, and looked at him expressionlessly. Qi Tianlong clenched his teeth and made up his mind. He shouted, Fine. You unfilial son, you're all grown up now. I'll believe you this time and give you a chance to make him a consecrator. Qi Huangji was stunned for a moment, then his face was full of joy. He bowed and said, I thank you on behalf of young Master Tianqing. Qi Tianlong was even more annoyed when he saw his expression change so quickly. He scolded, What are you waiting for? Go and bring him here. Yes, sir. Qi Huangji replied, then turned around and ran off happily. Qi Tianlong watched his back disappear and muttered angrily, Sooner or later, I'll be angered to death by this unfilial son. Half an hour later. Qi Huangji took Qi Tianqing and stepped into the Qi mansion once again. At this time, Qi Tianlong had already calmed down and was sitting in the study waiting. Qi Huangji took Qi Tianqing directly to the study to discuss the matter. After the two sides met, there was no greeting or pleasantries. Qi Tianqing cupped his hands and Qi Tianlong nodded as a greeting. After Qi Huangji and Qi Tianqing sat down, Qi Tianlong asked directly, Young Master Tianqing, how confident are you in defeating Yuan Jie? 100%, Qi Tianqing said with an indifferent expression. Qi Tianlong frowned, feeling that he was unreliable. He looked quiet and low-key, but in fact, he was confident and arrogant. Qi Tianlong asked again, Now, besides Yuan Jie, there's another strong enemy, the genius disciple of the Blood Sword sect, Mu Yi. He's also a half-step divine lord. Are you confident in defeating him? 100%. Qi Tianqing's expression didn't change as he repeated the two words. Qi Tianlong was so angry that his eyebrows twitched. He shouted angrily, You haven't even seen Mu Yi and you dare to boast like this? Kid, are you too arrogant, or do you take me for a fool? Ji Tianqing was still calm and said calmly, I'm invincible below the Divine Lord level. Chapter 2791. Qi Huangji was stunned. His eyes widened as he stared at Ji Tianqing in awe. He was so excited that his body trembled. Brother, you're awesome. He gave Ji Tianqing a thumbs up and roared in his heart. Qi Tianlong stood up with a swoosh. He was so angry that he laughed. Ha ha ha. What an arrogant and ignorant boy. I've lived for more than 5,000 years and I've never seen anyone more arrogant than you. Qi Tianlong regretted agreeing to Qi Huangji's request. He even wanted to hang Qi Huangji up and give him a good beating. Qi Huangji was so stupid that he found a lunatic to serve him. He was the head of the Qi family, a divine lord. How could he agree to such a crazy request? Was the world crazy? The atmosphere in the study was strange. Qi Tianlong and his son were both agitated. One was excited, while the other was furious. Only Ji Tianqing was still sitting there calmly, without the slightest fluctuation in his emotions. He even picked up the teacup and slowly took a sip. At this moment, a clear and melodious voice came from outside the study. Invincible below the Divine Lord level. As the voice fell, a graceful silver figure appeared at the door of the study. It was Ning Xiyuan. As usual, she was wearing a silver armor without a helmet. In all fairness, she was indeed a rare beauty. Even though she was wearing silver armor, her figure was still hot. It was unknown how many young men adored such a noble and valiant beauty. Ning Xiyuan stepped into the study and bowed to Qi Tianlong. Uncle, I was just passing by. I didn't mean to eavesdrop. Please forgive me. Qi Tianlong's anger dissipated. He quickly said, Miss Xiyuan, you're too polite. You're the daughter-in-law of the Qi family. It's only right that you participate in this matter. This is a serious matter. I'd like to hear your opinion. He was in a difficult position. Since Ning Xiyuan wanted to help him, he was grateful. Now, he liked this daughter-in-law more and more. Qi Huangji glanced at Ning Xiyuan and asked unhappily, Miss Ning, what are you trying to do? Ning Xiyuan said expressionlessly, Young Master Qi, if you want to invite a consecrator, this is your Qi family's matter. Naturally, I won't interfere. However, young Master Tianqing's words were shocking, and he looked down on all the talents in the world. As luck would have it, I'm a half-step divine lord, so I want to experience Sir Tianqing's strength. Qi Huangji's expression changed, and a look of worry appeared in his eyes. Of course he knew that this ice beauty Ning Xiyuan was terrifyingly strong. At least, he was stronger than Yuan Jie. Qi Huangji was a little hesitant, but Qi Tianlong was full of joy. He hurriedly echoed, yes. Miss Xiyuan was one of the top 5 geniuses in Tianxue County. If this young Master Tianqing can't even beat young Miss Xiyuan, what right does he have to be arrogant? Ning Xiyuan nodded slightly and looked straight at Ji Tianqing. She said in a low voice, Young Master Tianqing, please enlighten me. Qi Huangji hurriedly stood up and was about to stop him. Ji Tianqing waved his hand, indicating that he did not need to worry. Since Miss Ning wants to test my strength, I'll naturally accompany you. My bold words can only be verified by the failure of some geniuses. As he spoke, Ji Tianqing stood up and walked out of the study. Young Master Qi, is there a suitable place for the martial arts competition? I'm afraid that the entire Qi family will be destroyed when the fight starts. Qi Tianlong hurriedly said, let's go to the martial arts arena. I've set up a monarch-grade divine formation there. You can fight without worry. Thus, the 4 of them hurried to the martial arts arena. Under Qi Tianlong's instructions, the news quickly spread in the Qi family. Hundreds of Qi family disciples and Ning Xiyuan's guards all rushed to the martial arts arena to watch the fight. The martial arts arena of the Qi family occupied an area of 10,000 feet and could accommodate thousands of people. There was also an arena that looked like a pale blue ball of light. It was only 100 feet wide. In reality, the arena was protected by 3 monarch-grade divine formations and the space inside was 1,000 miles wide. Immortals below the Divine Lord realm could fight without worry as the aftermath would not spread out. 15 minutes later. More than 100 people gathered around the arena. They were all experts of the Qi family and Ning Xiyuan's guards. When the crowd heard the cause of the incident, they carefully sized up Ji Tianqing and commented on him. They took pleasure in his misfortune. This kid looks ordinary. What qualifications does he have to be our Qi family's consecrator? He must be a swindler. After all, he was hired by the eldest young master. He dares to boast that he is invincible below the Divine Lord realm. Isn't he afraid that the wind will cut his tongue? Ha ha ha. He was just bragging and in the blink of an eye, he was slapped in the face by Miss Xiyuan. How laughable. Miss Xiyuan is the 5th genius of Tianxue County. She is a true genius. I bet that kid will lose within 3 moves at most. Tisk. You are underestimating Miss Xiyuan. 2 moves at most. 1 move. Miss Xiyuan only needs 1 move to defeat that kid. The crowd was discussing excitedly. Moreover, their voices were very loud. They did not mind that Ji Tianqing was present and mocked him. Ji Tianqing turned a deaf ear to them and remained calm. Qi Huanji, on the other hand, was furious. His face darkened and he secretly made a note of those who mocked him. Humph. After this matter is over, this young master will settle the score with you. Ning Xiyuan glanced at Ji Tianqing and thought to himself, this person's temperament is as calm as water. Qi Tianlong was also observing him. He secretly sneered, kid, it's useless to pretend to be calm. Your true colors will be revealed soon. At this moment, Ji Tianqing stepped onto the arena and turned around to beckon Ning Xiyuan with his finger. This frivolous gesture made Ning Xiyuan frown and his eyes turn cold. The Qi's and Ning family guards' faces changed and they cursed Ji Tianqing furiously. Qi Huanji was not angry. Instead, he was secretly pleased. Ning Xiyuan, oh Ning Xiyuan, you are always so arrogant and disdainful of me. Later, Brother Tianqing will teach you a lesson and make you beg for mercy. It will be very exciting, right? When he thought of this, Qi Huanji's face changed and he muttered to himself, Someone is humiliating my fiancé. Why am I not angry? Instead, I am happy. This is not right. Forget it. I don't care if it is right or not. As long as I feel good, that's all that matters. At the same time, Ning Xiyuan stepped onto the arena. The two of them were standing 100 miles away from each other in the battling space that was 1,000 miles in radius. After they saluted each other, the battle began. Ning Xiyuan was the first to attack. He turned into a silver stream of light and shot out dozens of fist radiances toward Ji Tianqing. The mountain-like silver fist radiances were like meteors falling from the sky. They were extremely powerful. Ji Tianqing stood on the spot and did not dodge. He only raised his fists slowly when the meteors fell in front of him. He activated the power of 14 laws and compressed his divine power to the extreme. He used all his strength to create 2 illusory images of dragons and elephants to fight against Ning Xiyuan. Dragon Elephant Divine Fist. Chapter 2792. Boom. There was a deafening sound. The mountain-sized dragon elephant phantom carried the power of 14 laws and hit the dozens of starry fist radiance head-on. The dragon elephant phantom was solid like a real primordial divine elephant and 9 true dragons. Its aura was extremely violent and domineering. There were more than a dozen different colored divine lights, representing different nomological powers. Space, earth, blood, 5 elements, stars, and so on. The power of this punch had reached the limit of the heaven god realm and exceeded everyone's imagination. Ning Siyuan was not the only one who was shocked by the unparalleled pressure. Even outside the ring, more than 100 spectators were stunned. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. Boom! Crack! In the next moment, the dragon elephant phantom swept across the entire arena and burst forth with destructive power. Ning Siyuan's dozens of starry fist radiance were instantly shattered. The power of the dragon elephant divine fist did not weaken much and hit her again. Bam! Amidst the muffled sound, Ning Siyuan's body shook and he was sent flying. She was still in mid-air, but her face had already turned pale and blood spurted out from her nose and mouth. Although she was wearing the monarch-grade divine armor and had unparalleled defensive power, the power of the dragon elephant divine fist actually made a dent in the divine armor. The terrifying power penetrated the divine armor's barrier and caused Ning Siyuan to suffer internal injuries. Originally, Ning Siyuan was wearing the monarch-grade divine armor to fight with Ji Tianqing. She was considered to have cheated and gained a huge advantage. But no one expected the result. Ji Tianqing only used one move to beat her until she vomited blood and flew out 100 miles in a sorry state. This was simply too unbelievable. Swoosh! Ning Siyuan flew out 100 miles and barely managed to reduce the impact. She stopped in mid-air. She was stunned on the spot and did not counterattack. Of course, Ji Tianqing also retracted his fists and stood on the spot calmly. He looked at Ning Siyuan calmly and asked, "Miss Ning, do you want to continue fighting?" Ning Siyuan stared at him with a complicated expression. All 3 of his eyes were filled with shock. How did you do it? She could not believe that Ji Tianqing had actually condensed 14 types of law powers. On the other hand, she had only condensed 10 laws and was hailed as one of the top 5 geniuses in Sky Snow County City. In her impression, only Divine Lord Realm powerhouses could condense so many laws. Ji Tianqing said in an indifferent tone, "It's not difficult for those who don't know, but it's not difficult for those who do." This was a useless sentence. It was as good as not saying anything. However, these words were a heavy blow to Ning Siyuan. Ning Siyuan's expression became more and more complicated. He secretly gritted his teeth and nodded. "You're very good." "I lost." After saying that, she turned around and flew out of the ring, leaving the martial arts arena without looking back. This was just an exchange of pointers, not a life-and-death duel, so it was fine to stop at a certain point. Moreover, Ning Siyuan already had an answer. She was no match for Ji Tianqing. Even if she forcefully carried on fighting, it was also seeking humiliation. Only at this time did the spectators outside the ring come back to their senses. Everyone did not hear Ji Tianqing and Ning Siyuan's conversation and were also not clear on what was going on. But Ning Siyuan leaving injured proved that she lost. In a split second, the entire martial arts arena seethed with excitement. The 100 over spectators were all like they had seen a ghost, inexplicably alarmed as they discussed animatedly. "My God! What happened just now? They only exchanged one move and it's over. Just who won? Miss Siyuan wouldn't have lost, right? Although this result is very shocking, Miss Siyuan is injured. It's indeed her loss. Impossible. The person who was one shot should be that kid. Why is it this result? Are we all seeing things wrongly? Miss Siyuan is Sky Snow County City's top 5 genius. How can she possibly be defeated by someone in one move? That kid wouldn't be a divine lord, right? Otherwise, how can he possibly defeat Miss Siyuan? Right. That kid must have concealed his true strength. He must be a divine lord. Many Qi family disciples and Ning family guards could not accept this result. Everyone exclaimed and discussed animatedly. Qi Tianlong's expression was very complicated. He was both shocked and delighted. He did not expect the result to be so unbelievable. That arrogant guy had actually defeated Ning Xiyuan. And he had only used one move. After all, he was a divine lord expert and could see more clearly than others. He had to admit that the power of Ji Tianqing's punch was indeed several times stronger than Ning Xiyuan's. Even he might not be able to deliver such a powerful punch. After calming down, he was filled with joy. This guy is so strong. He actually defeated Miss Xiyuan in one move. Even if he were to fight Mu Yi and Yuan Jie, he would definitely win. Although he's arrogant, he didn't lie to me. He's really invincible below the divine lord level. Our Qi family has found a treasure this time. Thinking of this, Qi Tianlong could not help but turn to look at Qi Huanji. At this time, Qi Huanji had finally recovered from the shock. His face was flushed with excitement as he waved his fist and cheered. When he met Qi Tianlong's gaze, he raised his head proudly and said provocatively, "Father, how is it? Are you convinced now?" Qi Tianlong's face darkened as he glared at him. The person who defeated Miss Ning was young Master Tianqing, not you. What are you so proud of? If you had been a little more ambitious, our Qi family would not have fallen to such a state. Yes, yes, yes. You're right. Qi Huanji was in a good mood and did not care about his father's reprimand. He quickly asked, "Father, you have no objections now, right?" "Yes." Qi Tianlong nodded and said with relief, "You've done so many ridiculous things, but you're finally smart for once. I promise you that young Master Tianqing will be our Qi family's honorary elder." Qi Huanji smiled triumphantly. At this time, Ji Tianqing left the arena and came to his side. Therefore, he said to Qi Tianlong, "Father, let's go to the study now and settle this matter. Tomorrow is the martial arts competition, we have to prepare." Qi Tianlong waved his hand and said, "You little brat, how can you be so heartless? Miss Ning is injured. As her fiancée, you should go and visit her now. I'll talk to young Master Tianqing about the honorary elder." After that, Qi Tianlong was about to send him away. How could Qi Huanji agree? "Father, Miss Ning is proud and arrogant. Now that she is injured and defeated, she must be in a bad mood. If I go and visit her now, she will definitely misunderstand that I'm going to mock her. Let's ignore her and talk about business first." Qi Tianlong was helpless. He could only bring him and Ji Tianqing to the study to discuss the matter. After the three of them left, more than 100 spectators gradually left the arena. However, the crowd gathered in groups of 3 to 5 and were still discussing the battle. The name, Young Master Tianqing, was firmly etched in everyone's mind. Chapter 2793. In the Patriarch's study, Qi Tianlong was sitting at the head of the table. On the jade table in front of him was a contract and the Patriarch's seal. Inviting a consecrator was a very formal and grand affair. Not only did both parties have to discuss the benefits, but they also had to sign a contract. Qi Tianlong looked at Ji Tianqing and said seriously, "Young Master Tianqing, I didn't see you fight before, so I misunderstood you. Please forgive me. Tomorrow is the martial arts competition, so let's settle this today and not go through so many formalities." Ji Tianqing sat on the big chair and drank tea. He nodded calmly. Qi Huanji stood at the side, looking like a little follower. He admired Ji Tianqing a lot. Qi Tianlong frowned, but he did not say anything. Ahem, he cleared his throat and said seriously, "Young Master Tianqing, the Qi family has not invited a consecrator for the past 100 years. So, we will pay you according to the standards of other families. From now on, the Qi family will give you 30 million divine stones or resources of the same value every year. In addition, if you make any contributions to the Qi family, there will be other rewards." What you need to do is to stay in the Qi family, follow the Qi family's decisions and arrangements, and protect and help the Qi family to grow stronger. We must work together. Before Qi Tianlong could finish his sentence, Qi Huangji interrupted him with a frown. Father. 30 million divine stones a year. Aren't you too stingy? The consecrator invited by the city lord's mansion gets 50 million divine stones a year. We are the richest family in Green Mountain City, so we have to give him 60 million. Before Ji Tianqing could even talk about the price, Qi Huangji took the initiative to raise the price. Qi Tianlong was so angry that his liver hurt. He glared at his son and scolded, "Unfilial son, whose side are you on?" Qi Huangji shrunk his neck and whispered, "If young Master Tianqing is the Qi family's consecrator, we will be a family. How much benefits do you have to offer them in order to get them to help us?" Although his voice was not loud, Qi Tianlong and Ji Tianqing were both strong, so they naturally heard him clearly. Ji Tianqing couldn't help but smile. Qi Tianlong was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He glared fiercely at Qi Huangji and shouted coldly, "Then 50 million a year. Are you satisfied?" "That's more like it," Qi Huangji muttered again. Qi Tianlong was so angry that his hands trembled. He grabbed the patriarch's seal and wanted to smash it on Qi Huangji's face. Qi Huangji did not sense the danger and hurriedly urged, "Father, quickly stamp the seal and this matter will be done." Qi Tianlong's face turned even darker. He took a deep breath and said in his heart, "I'll endure it. After all, she's his biological daughter." Moments later, Qi Tianlong and Ji Tianqing signed the contract under the witness of Qi Huangji. 2 contracts, one for each person. Qi Tianlong saluted Ji Tianqing and said with a smile, "Young Master Tianqing, we're a family from now on. I hope you'll put in more effort to help the Qi family to a higher level." Ji Tianqing also saluted back and said, "It's my duty. I'll do my best." Qi Tianlong nodded with satisfaction and ordered, "Huangji, empty the west courtyard. That will be the residence of High Official Tianqing in the future. Also, send 2 younger and prettier maids to keep an eye on High Official Tianqing's daily life." Qi Huangji frowned and said, "Father, the west courtyard has been empty for more than 10 years and has been used as a warehouse. How can we let young Master Tianqing live there? Since my eccentric courtyard is being rebuilt, I'll ask the craftsmen to put in more effort to build a more luxurious high official courtyard for young Master Tianqing to live in. As for the maids, young Master Tianqing has never been close to women. He doesn't even touch the fox god maids in Xingyue Pavilion. There's no need to arrange for them." Qi Tianlong's 2 decisions were overturned by his son on the spot. Moreover, Qi Huangji overstepped his authority and arranged a residence for Ji Tianqing. Qi Tianlong was so angry that he gritted his teeth, but he had to maintain his composure. He smiled and said, "All right, then we'll do as you say." Qi Huangji nodded happily and said, "Father, then you go ahead with your work. I'll show Tianqing around. Go, go." Qi Tianlong waved his hand impatiently and hurriedly sent Qi Huangji away. Qi Tianlong couldn't help but want to beat him up if he looked at him or listened to him speak. Then, Qi Huangji led Ji Tianqing out of the study and strolled around the Qi residence. Qi Tianlong also called the housekeeper and guards to spread the news of the high official so that everyone in the residence knew. Although the Qi residence was very big, with more than 4,000 people, the news spread quickly. However, the news spread very quickly. In less than 2 hours, almost everyone knew that the Qi clan had invited a young consecrator. Not long after, another piece of news spread in the residence. The young consecrator had a round of sparring with Ning Xiyuan. The 2 of them had only exchanged 1 move in the arena, and Ning Xiyuan had been defeated. This news was like a heavy bomb that was dropped into a lake, causing a huge uproar. When many people heard the news, their first reaction was disbelief and absurdity. However, more than 100 people had seen the fight with their own eyes, proving that the news was true. The thousands of people in the Qi residence were shocked, and they were full of anticipation and curiosity toward the young high official. The Qi residence's disciples, servants, and guards were all discussing this matter. Ning Xiyuan didn't show up for the entire day. Everyone knew without asking that she must be in seclusion to heal her injuries. Moreover, she had been injured in a single move in front of everyone, and it was embarrassing. Qi Huanji brought Ji Tianqing around the Qi residence, then led him to the east courtyard. The east courtyard was where he and a few of the Qi residence's direct descendants lived. Next to it was Tingfeng Garden. It was an elegant and luxuriously decorated courtyard used to entertain distinguished guests. Ning Xiyuan and her guards lived in Tingfeng Garden. The two residences were 100 steps apart, and Qi Huanji had no intention of visiting. He was indeed heartless. When night fell, the Qi residence hosted a sumptuous banquet. This was a family banquet held in the main hall. Only the Qi residence's direct descendants, a few attendants, and Qi Tianlong's family were qualified to attend. The purpose of the family banquet was to welcome Ji Tianqing. At the same time, it was to let the Qi residence's direct descendants see Ji Tianqing with their own eyes. Qin Peipei personally went to invite Ning Xiyuan. As expected, Ning Xiyuan declined the invitation with the excuse of recuperating. At the family banquet, Qi Tianlong and his wife performed the duties of a host without losing their manners. The Qi residence's direct descendants reacted calmly, silently observing Ji Tianqing. No one applauded, and no one was foolish enough to criticize him. Only Qi Huanji was the happiest, and he was very active. Ji Tianqing's expression remained calm, neither servile nor overbearing. No matter how sumptuous the wine and delicacies were, he would stop after tasting them. After the family banquet, the Qi residents still didn't know him well enough. They felt that his identity was mysterious and his strength was unfathomable. The family banquet ended in the middle of the night. Slightly tipsy, Qi Huanji accompanied Ji Tianqing back to the east courtyard to rest. However, as soon as they stepped into the east courtyard, they saw a graceful figure standing outside Ji Tianqing's room. Chapter 2794. Under the dim yellow light. A slim figure stood under the eaves outside the door, casting a long shadow. It was a woman in a long silver dress. She had a voluptuous figure and exquisite curves. She stood quietly outside the door, patiently waiting for something. When Qi Huanji saw her face, he immediately sobered up. Miss Ning. Why are you here? There was no doubt that the woman in the silver dress was Ning Xiyuan. Her armor had been destroyed by Ji Tianqing, so she looked even more noble and elegant in her long dress. When she heard Qi Huanji's voice, she turned around and replied nonchalantly, "I'm waiting for someone." Although she was answering Qi Huanji, her eyes were fixed on Ji Tianqing. Qi Huanji was stunned. He looked at Ji Tianqing with a strange expression. Then, he cupped his hands at Ning Xiyuan and said, "You two continue chatting. I'll take my leave first." Ning Xiyuan had no intention of stopping him. Ji Tianqing frowned and shouted at Qi Huanji, "Young Master Qi, come back." No, you two continue chatting." Qi Huanji quickly waved his hand and sped away. Ji Tianqing was speechless. This kid is so careless. Your fiancée came to my room late at night to wait for me, but you weren't there to keep an eye on her. Instead, you ran away even faster. What was he thinking? Ji Tianqing sighed silently. He walked up to Ning Xiyuan and stood 10 steps away from her. He asked, "Miss Ning, you're young Master Qi's fiancée, and we're in the Qi residence. You should avoid arousing suspicion. It's already late at night. Let's talk tomorrow." Ning Xiyuan looked at him calmly and said coldly, if I have a clear conscience, why do I have to avoid arousing suspicion? I've been thinking about it all day, but I still can't figure it out. I can't wait until tomorrow. I want to know the answer now. Ji Tianqing understood what she was talking about. He frowned and said, "Is this how you ask for advice?" Ning Xiyuan stared blankly for a moment and gave him a deep look. Then, she bowed to Ji Tianqing and sincerely said, "My name is Ning Xiyuan. I would like to ask Sir Tianqing to enlighten me and teach me how to superimpose the laws." It was very clear that she was very focused on the cultivation of the divine path, and could even be said to be obsessed. After being defeated by Ji Tianqing, she had been wondering how Ji Tianqing had done it. He was actually able to superimpose 14 types of law energies into a single punch and instantly defeat her. The Ning family had several divine lord powerhouses. They were powerful and knowledgeable. However, the few divine lords could only superimpose 4 to 5 nomological powers at a time. That kind of secret technique that superimposed the laws was very ordinary and not very profound. However, Ning Xiyuan could see that Ji Tianqing's secret technique was definitely a top-notch divine ability. Therefore, she disregarded her injuries and also did not avoid arousing suspicion, coming to find Ji Tianqing in the middle of the night. Ji Tianqing said with an indifferent expression, "The art of layering laws, let alone you, even divine lord powerhouses yearn for it in their dreams. Miss Ning, you and I have never met before. Why should I teach you?" Regarding his reaction, Ning Xiyuan was not surprised in the slightest. She did not say a word, took out a token from her interspatial ring, and handed it in front of Ji Tianqing. "This is my Ning family's elder token. I'm giving it to Sir Tianqing as a meeting gift. Apart from this, whatever condition you have, as long as it doesn't exceed the Ning family's ability and doesn't go against morality, I can agree to it." Ji Tianqing raised his brows and said with a light smile, "If I want 5 billion divine stones, plus 10 monarch-rank divine artifacts, can you give it too?" Ning Xiyuan was stunned for a moment and shook her head lightly and said, "I know. The secret technique that Sir Tianqing grasps should be worth this price. But, this price is seriously too great. I can't make the decision on my own and still have to consult father and the few elders." Ji Tianqing waved his hand and transmitted his voice, "Divine stones and divine artifacts are all worldly possessions. I don't care about it. But there's one thing, if you can achieve it, I'll impart to you the secret technique." Ning Xiyuan's 2 eyes immediately lit up, revealing a thick look of anticipation. "Please speak." Ji Tianqing said with a ruminating smile, "Let me ask you first, how many continents are there in the divine world?" That was right, he wanted to understand the situation of the other 3 continents and 9 great sea regions through the Ning family's forces. Figuring out this matter was more important than 5 billion divine stones. It was just too bad that Ning Xiyuan frowned and thought for a while, then answered with a question, "Could it be that there are other continents apart from the vast heaven continent?" A hint of disappointment flashed across Ji Tianqing's eyes, and he secretly thought in his heart, "Indeed so. Based on the Ning family's forces, we also don't have the qualifications to understand the continents outside of vast heaven." He was a little dispirited, and he waved his hand and said, "Forget it, you can go." After saying that, he walked toward the door and brushed past Ning Xiyuan. How smart was Ning Xiyuan? She immediately understood that she could not do what Ji Tianqing wanted to say. Suddenly, her mood fell, and the light in her eyes dimmed. She cupped her hands at Ji Tianqing and said, "Young Master Tianqing, I was rude, please forgive me. But I'll definitely think of a way to fulfill your request. Sorry for the intrusion, goodbye." After saying that, she turned and left without hesitation. After she returned to Tingfeng Garden, a figure walked out from under the big tree in the corner of the courtyard. It was Qi Huanji. He looked at Ji Tianqing's door, then glanced at Tingfeng Garden not far away, and scratched his head in confusion. He was worried that Ning Xiyuan would hold a grudge and cause trouble for Ji Tianqing, so he hid at the side and spied on her. But he did not expect that not only was Ning Xiyuan not angry, but she was also respectful to Ji Tianqing. The two of them were conversing with each other through divine sense, so he could not hear the content. That was why he was full of doubts. That's strange. Ning Xiyuan is such a proud person, but after being injured by young Master Tianqing, she lost face in front of everyone. Based on her personality, she would definitely cause trouble for young Master Tianqing. Or she would leave the Qi mansion in a fit of anger and rush back to Tianxue County City overnight. But not only did she not leave, she did not hold a grudge, and she was even polite to young Master Tianqing. Young Master Tianheng didn't do anything. How did he make Ning Xiyuan lower her head? This young Master Tianqing is really mysterious and resourceful. The more Qi Huangji thought about it, the more he admired Ji Tianqing. He quietly returned to his room and prepared to meditate and cultivate. Suddenly, a thought flashed through his mind. Oh my God! Could it be that Ning Xiyuan was subdued by young Master Tianqing and admired him? Qi Huangji's heart was filled with bitterness and mixed feelings. Tonight, he would not be able to cultivate in peace. On the other side, Ji Tianqing entered the secret chamber and opened the interspatial ring. This dark red interspatial ring was given to him by Qi Tianlong. Inside was half a year's salary paid in advance, which was worth 25 million divine stones. There were 15 million divine stones and 10 million divine stones worth of resources, which were all divine elixirs, medicinal herbs, and talismans. There were more than 80 divine elixirs in total, and only 2 of them were monarch-grade divine elixirs. The rest were heaven-grade divine elixirs. Ji Tianqing took out the 2 monarch-grade divine elixirs, held them in his palm, and used the devouring divine power to cultivate. Although these 2 monarch-grade divine elixirs were used for healing and could not directly increase one's strength. However, Ji Tianqing used the heaven-mending pearl to devour the power of the 2 divine elixirs and absorb their essence to quickly increase his strength. Chapter 2795. When Ji Tianqing entered Green Mountain City, he only had over 20,000 divine stones on him. That was a small fortune that he snatched after killing Lin Wuji. He had tried before using the heaven-mending pearl to devour those divine stones. In the end, he quickly devoured 20,000 divine stones, but the increase in strength was limited. In comparison, it was far from the effect of devouring divine mandates. Therefore, Ji Tianqing was not in a hurry to devour the 15 million divine stones he obtained either. Devouring 2 monarch-ranked divine pills first, the effect would definitely be stronger. If it were an ordinary person, refining 2 monarch-ranked divine pills would take at least 3 to 5 months. But Ji Tianqing only cultivated for a night and refined the 2 divine pills. Half of the power went to the heaven-mending pearl, and the other half went to him. The result made him very gratified. He successfully broke through to the 7th level celestial deity realm. Fortunately, it was just breaking through a small realm and did not cause any heaven and earth phenomenon. There was also not too much commotion. Apart from himself, no one knew that he broke through at dawn. After reaching the 7th level celestial deity realm, his strength increased more than 3 times, and his foundation became even more profound. The next morning. The morning sun had just risen when Qi Huangji, who did not sleep the entire night, came to knock on Ji Tianqing's door. Ji Tianqing ended his cultivation and left the hidden chamber. The 2 people sat down in the living room. Ji Tianqing asked casually, "Young Master Qi, after today's matter is done, I need a few household registration tokens to settle down my family. Is there a problem?" A small matter." Qi Huangji nodded absent-mindedly. His expression was somewhat complicated, his eyes dodging, not daring to look straight at Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing saw his abnormality and said with a light smile, "What? Not confident in today's martial competition and a little nervous? Qi Huangji hurriedly waved his hand and said, "That's not it. With you participating, I'm 100% at ease." Ji Tianqing said with a teasing smile, "Then you're troubled. It must be because of Miss Ning, right?" Last night, when he was talking with Ning Xiyuan, Qi Huangji hid in the dark and spied on them. He was well aware. Qi Huangji felt a little awkward when his thoughts were exposed. He hesitated for a moment before he mustered up the courage to ask, "Young Master Tianqing, to tell you the truth, I treat you as a brother. There's something that I've thought about and decided to ask you." Without waiting for him to finish, Ji Tianqing waved his hand and said indifferently, "Don't worry. I'm not interested in Ning Xiyuan." Qi Huangji was stunned at first, but then he looked relieved. He secretly let out a sigh of relief and patted Ji Tianqing's shoulder. He laughed happily and said, "Brother Tianqing knows me best." Ji Tianqing glanced at him and asked, "Since you care about her, why are you avoiding her?" Qi Huangji shook his head and sighed, "Brother, how can a genius like you understand the pain of trash like us? Ning Xiyuan had a noble status, was so beautiful, and was so talented and powerful. As long as it was a male, it was impossible for him not to like her. But I'm not good enough for her. I feel ashamed when I see her." His words came to an abrupt end. Qi Huangji's body stiffened. He stared at the door with an extremely interesting expression. Ji Tianqing turned his head and saw Ning Xiyuan standing at the door in her golden armor, staring coldly at Qi Huangji. Although Ning Xiyuan didn't say anything, her face was as cold as frost and her eyes were as sharp as swords. Her iceberg aura was too strong. Qi Huangji was so embarrassed that he wanted to dig a hole and hide in it. However, Ji Tianqing acted as if nothing had happened. With a calm expression, he asked, "Miss Ning, are you going to watch the martial arts competition later?" Ning Xiyuan withdrew her sharp eyes and nodded, "Yes, I want to see how young Master Tianqing will defeat Yuan Jia and Mu Yi." Ji Tianqing smiled and said, "The result of the martial arts competition will not disappoint you. But that matter will definitely disappoint you." Ning Xiyuan nodded calmly and said, "Young Master Tianqing's secret technique is unfathomable. Even if I watch 10 times, I may not be able to comprehend anything. But I won't give up even if there's a tiny bit of hope." The two of them chatted as if there was no one else around and ignored Qi Huangji. Qi Huangji wasn't angry. Instead, he was very grateful to Ji Tianqing and got up to leave as if he was escaping. "Well, you guys talk first. I'll go get ready and send someone to call you later." After saying that, he dashed out and disappeared in the blink of an eye. The living room quieted down. Ning Xiyuan looked at Qi Huangji, who fled in panic, and sighed silently in her heart. If this unambitious guy could learn a little bit from young Master Tianqing, he wouldn't have such a bad reputation. Unknowingly, a quarter of an hour passed. 2 guards hurried over to inform Ji Tianqing and Ning Xiyuan. The two of them left the east courtyard together. 4 carriages were parked at the gate of the Qi family's mansion. The carriages were all made of divine gold and inlaid with many divine jades. They were very luxurious. The divine beasts pulling the carriages were 12 snow-white unicorns, very noble and elegant. Each of the unicorns was a rare divine beast that was worth tens of millions of divine stones. In the entire Qingshan city, the Qi family was the only family that could afford to be so extravagant. After all, the Qi family was in the pet business. After everyone had arrived, they got into the carriages and went to the plaza in the city center. Qi Tianlong and the 3 deacons of the Qi family were in the first carriage. Ji Tianqing and Qi Huangji were in the second carriage. Ning Xiyuan and her maids were in the third carriage. As for the fourth carriage, several young disciples of the Qi family were in it. They were the best of their generation. A tall arena had been built in the plaza in the city center. The arena was more than 1,000 feet high and was protected by 4 layers of monarch-level formations. On the surface, it looked like a white ball of light with a radius of 10,000 feet. But as a matter of fact, the space inside the ball of light was vast, with a radius of 100 miles. By the time the Qi family's fleet arrived at the plaza, the arena was already crowded with people. At least 200,000 people of the God family had arrived at the plaza in advance and occupied the best places to watch the fight. Of course, there were more than 3 million people of the God family in the Qingshan city. At the moment, more than 100,000 people of the God family were coming from all directions and gathering at the plaza. The martial arts competition was a grand event that was held once every 10 years in the Qingshan city. The 5 major families and the mayor's office could decide the ownership of the Cave of Mystic Light through the martial arts competition. They could also take the opportunity to train their disciples and show their strength to the people of the city. When the 12 unicorns pulled the 4 splendid carriages and flew to the plaza, many people were excited. Countless people cheered loudly as they looked at the Qi family's convoy with burning eyes. They were extremely envious. There were 4 other teams above the plaza. They were the 4 major families that had arrived in advance. Those of the Qi family were standing on a divine warship that was 10,000 feet long. Those of the Feng family were sitting on a huge jade carriage. Those of the other 2 major families were either riding on divine beasts or flying artifacts. All in all, the general public could only watch from the plaza. Only those of the 5 major families and the mayor's office could watch from the sky. Chapter 2796. The square was a hubbub of voices. Looking down from the sky, the ground was crowded with people, shoulder to shoulder. Countless people whispered to each other, sizing up the 5 great families with faces full of awe. The Qi family's 4 carriages stopped in the sky, quietly floating. Qi Tianlong and a few Qi family deacons walked out of the carriages one by one, standing still in the sky. Not far away, the people of the 4 great families cupped their hands to Qi Tianlong. Greetings, Patriarch Qi. Patriarch Qi, why are you here personally today? Every time in the martial arts competition, our 5 families are just side characters. The patriarchs will not come personally. Why is Patriarch Qi in the mood to watch the competition today? Patriarch Qi has gathered so many people. Could it be that your son has broken through and has hope of winning? The people of the 4 great families were all elders, deacons, and direct descendants. The 4 patriarchs were not present. It had been like this for decades. Qi Tianlong was not embarrassed either. He returned the greetings to the people of the great families one by one and greeted them. This seat is late. I've made everyone wait for a long time. In the previous few martial arts competitions, this seat has been busy with business and had no time to watch. Today, I have nothing to do, so I came over to take a look. He said it casually, but there was some confidence in his eyes and tone. The people of the other families noticed a trace of abnormality and immediately became alert. A youth in a brocade robe from the Feng family asked with a smile, Uncle Qi, this nephew heard that your residents recruited a consecrator yesterday. Qi Tianlong nodded and said, there is indeed such a thing. Yesterday, he gave the order to announce this news in the Qi residence and even held a banquet. His purpose was not just to let the Qi family know. The people of the other 4 great families and the city lord's residence would definitely also know the news. This way, it was considered informing in advance and did not violate the rules. In the crowd of the Qi family, a burly red-haired youth said with a playful smile, Uncle Qi, this nephew heard that the consecrator is very young. Was it Brother Huanji who insisted on recruiting him? An elder of the Yuqi family stroked his beard and said with a smile, I heard that the young man has not reached the Divine Lord realm yet and can also be a consecrator for the richest Qi family. The last to speak was the second elder of the Lu family. He said with a smile, does everyone still not understand? The Qi family's patriarch had invited an expert to represent the Qi family in this competition. Otherwise, how can a celestial deity realm brat have the qualifications to be a retainer? The aristocratic families appeared to be harmonious on the surface, but in reality, they were all in Green Mountain City, and there was no lack of scheming against each other. The four families understood Qi Tianlong's intention and questioned him in front of everyone. Qi Tianlong had long been mentally prepared. His expression remained unchanged. He smiled and waved his hand. "Everyone, please don't make fun of me. It's my son's fault for being too immature. My son and young Master Tianqing hit it off at first sight and even wanted to become sworn brothers, insisting on keeping young Master Tianqing in the Qi clan. I had no choice. I couldn't persuade that unfilial son, so I could only use this method. The people from the four great clans were all cunning old foxes. How could they not understand that he was evading the responsibility? But everyone knew that Qi Huangji's actions were preposterous. It was the Qi clan's business to hire a consecrator. No one could interfere, so they let it go. The Lu clan's second elder raised his eyebrows and smiled. "Everyone, before the martial arts competition begins, this old man would like to introduce a junior to all of you. His name is Mu Yi, and he's the nephew of our patriarch. He's been learning martial arts in the Blood Sword sect. Recently, he left the mountain and returned to the Lu clan to reunite with his family. As a member of the Lu clan, he naturally has to do his best for this martial arts competition." As his voice fell, a cold-looking young man in red robes walked out from the Lu clan's crowd. He held a sword in his arms. It was Mu Yi. Qi Tianlong's expression changed slightly when he saw this person, and his eyes narrowed. The people from the other three aristocratic families all looked at Mu Yi with vigilant gazes. Mu Yi glanced at Qi Tianlong expressionlessly, then turned to look at the Qi clan's carriage, as if looking for Qi Huangji. But Qi Huangji and Ji Tianqing sat in the carriage and didn't show themselves. Mu Yi could only withdraw his gaze and return to the crowd. From beginning to end, his expression was cold and indifferent, and he didn't even bother to look at the people from the other aristocratic families. Seeing the fear on everyone's faces, the Lu clan's second elder smiled proudly and looked at Qi Tianlong playfully. Qi Tianlong glanced at him and didn't say anything, but he sneered inwardly. The Lu clan is really ruthless. In order to obtain the profound light cave, they actually compromised with the Blood Sword sect. He despised the Lu clan's behavior, but he was worried. Because he knew that Mu Yi was very strong, very strong. In the Qi clan's second carriage, Qi Huangji pointed at the people from the four aristocratic families and introduced them to Ji Tianqing. Over there are people from the Feng clan. Their main business is divine weapons. That guy in luxurious clothes who looks frivolous is the young master of the Feng clan, Feng Qinlang. In Qingshan City, he's the infamous playboy, a slut. In the martial arts competition later, each clan can send 2 people to participate, and Feng Qinlang will definitely go on stage. However, his strength is average, and I've already defeated him 3 times. According to the rules, the other person is his younger cousin, and his strength is slightly stronger than his. Young Master Tianqing, to the east are people from the Qi clan. That red-haired kid is called Qi Jin, the young master of the Qi clan. He has a bad temper and doesn't get along with me normally, and often finds trouble with me. Although he's the same as me, a 9th-level celestial god, I can't beat him. The group of people in the southeast are from the Yuqi clan. They're mainly proficient in formations and saber arts. Pay attention to that skinny, dark-robed kid. That's Yuqi Chongkong, the second young master of the Yuqi clan. That guy is a martial arts fanatic. He's not interested in power or wealth, and is wholeheartedly focused on cultivating the divine Tao. I heard that his saber arts have improved recently, and he's mastered a saber array. If you go up against him, you have to be careful. To the south are people from the Lu clan. They're the most sinister. The Lu clan is really despicable. They actually negotiated with the Blood Sword sect to have Mu Yi pretend to be the nephew of the Lu clan's patriarch. Look at Mu Ye's arrogant face. It's simply disgusting. Young Master Tianqing, if you go up against him, you must beat him up until he's looking for his teeth on the ground. When talking about the Lu clan and Mu Yi, Qi Huangji's emotions were agitated and filled with hatred. Ji Tianqing glanced at him and asked, when Mu Yi went to the Qi clan, did he humiliate you in front of your face? Qi Huangji didn't say anything, which could be considered a tacit admission. Ji Tianqing patted his shoulder and said with a smile, don't worry, I'll help you vent your anger. Okay. Qi Huangji hurriedly nodded, revealing an expectant smile. At this moment, a luxurious carriage drove over from the northern sky. The crowd in the plaza immediately cheered. Countless God clan members were shouting the name Yuan Jie, their expressions rather excited and fanatical. Without a doubt, the people from the city lord's mansion had arrived. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.